All right, you all set, Mr. Henry? Okay, I'd like to call the February 10th, 2020 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission to order. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme?
Here.
Mr. Screbutenis?
Here.
Mr. Khan?
Here.
Mr. McPartlin?
Here.
Mr. Darpino?
Here.
Mr. Oster?
Here.
Chairman Walsh?
Here. Okay, we have a couple sets of minutes to approve. First set is from January 13th, 2020. Those were included in their packet. Do I have a motion to approve the January 13th, 2020 minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. McPartlin and second by Mr. Oster. And discussion? Anybody have any changes, corrections? No, I got a couple if nobody has anything, but I'll give you. Okay, just got a couple of just minor things that will make it right. First one is just the header is 2019, so we could update the header, top of the page there. All right, to 2020. And the only other minor comment I have is on page 8, line 304. Just a correction, Mr. DiArpino discussed his site visit, SITE. Okay.
Wait, say it again. Which line? You got it? Okay.
Do you have that, Mr. Henry? Okay, and those are just very minor, just typos. That's all I had. Does anybody else have anything else? Okay, seeing no other corrections, I guess all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Seeing none opposed, the minutes from January 13th, 2020 are approved. We'll move on to the minutes from January 27th, January 27th, 2020. Whoops, it goes quick. And can I have a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by Mr. Khan and seconded by Mr. McPartlin.
You can say.
Any changes, corrections to those minutes for the January 27th meeting? Yes, please get the microphone so we get you, okay? Yep. Yep, this Mr. I had that one too. Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, it was just a copy and paste or whatever. So on page 5, it was Mr. Oster voted aye versus Ms. Gold on that one. He returned to his seat on the board there.
And then on page 1, I was absent at that.
And page 1,
Oh.
you're absent?
Whoever's present.
Okay, thank you, Casey. Okay. And then I've got a couple others. On page 1 also, line 24, I thank the town board for their continued support, not service. Okay, it's line 24. Again, these are just simple corrections. No, I don't need that one. I don't need that one. You got page 5. Thank you, Ms. Gold. Page 6, line 223. It says we'll call for a public hearing, and it's actually, we already discussed the public hearing at the previous meeting, so this will be called for a resolution. So strike a public hearing and put resolution in there. And that's all I have. Anybody else have anything? Okay, seeing no other changes, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, January 27th minute as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, the minutes from the January 27th, 2020 meeting are approved. We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move to privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters in the town of Niskayuna, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. We'll listen to what you have to say. So privilege of the floor is open.
Hi, I'm Joel Bisalon, Berkeley Ave, Niskayuna. We own the property directly across the street from the memorial. And we have the property bordering the memorial under contract, both on the left and right-hand side. And we'd like to say that it's well thought out and it'll be a benefit to the town and community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for privilege of the floor? Any planning and zoning matters? Okay, seeing no one else, we'll close privilege of the floor, and we have no unfinished business tonight, so we'll move right to new business, which is a series of resolutions tonight. First up being Resolution 2020-06, a resolution for final approval of a 2-lot minor subdivision at 2501 Troy Schenectady Road. This is the property for the proposed or future, I can say it, Jewish memorial, Holocaust memorial, okay? So we don't read the whole resolutions, but I'll move right to what this is about. Its bottom line is subdivision of property at 2501 Troy Schenectady Road in order to make the Capital District Jewish Holocaust Memorial available. There's only two conditions. First condition being in accordance with Chapter 180, the Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance of the Town of Niskayuna, the applicant shall put in place soil erosion and sediment control measures sufficient to stabilize disturbed area. These measures shall be satisfactory to the Superintendent of Water, Sewer, and Engineering and shall remain in place until such time as natural vegetation has successfully been established. Second condition, any minor changes to the final plat shall be addressed to the satisfaction of the town planner. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution for the subdivision of land at 2501 Troy Schenectady Road?
Approved.
Moved by Mr. Laflamme and seconded by Mr. Khan. And any discussion?
So we did receive all the final paperwork relative to the site, and I think everything looks fine.
Yeah,
And the conditions, I know we're going to have a second resolution that gets more into that in detail. We could bring it up then.
yeah.
But in the context of this first resolution, I think,
Because we want the land subdivided before we do the site plan approval. And the only reason for the second comment is that I think that the wetland delineation on the subdivision plat kind of messes with how you see the lines. So I just think before we print the final subdivision plat, we should probably take the wetland delineation off. It's pretty much the only thing I have.
yep.
Anybody else have any comments on the subdivision? It's pretty straightforward. Talk more sure at the next resolution. Okay. Seeing no other comments, could we please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme?
Yes.
Mr. Scributinus?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin?
Aye.
Mr. Darpino?
Aye.
Mr. Oster?
Aye.
Chairman Walsh?
Aye. The subdivision of the land at 2501 is approved. Move on to the second resolution 2020-07, a resolution for site plan approval of the Capital District Jewish Holocaust Memorial at 2501 Troy Schenectady Road. Okay, this one's a little bit lengthy, so everybody's going to have to bear with me here, all right? But basically, this resolution is going to grant final site plan approval for a special use permit to allow the Capital District Jewish Holocaust Memorial at that location. And I'll read the conditions before I ask for a motion in a second, okay? So first condition, there's several, so bear with me. Wetlands may not be disturbed, drained, or physically altered in any way without first contacting the Army Corps of Engineers. Additionally, the town of Niskayuna requires that no land can be disturbed within 25-foot buffer from the boundary of the wetland. In accordance with Chapter 180 of the Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance of the town of Niskayuna, the applicant shall put in place soil erosion and sediment control measures sufficient to stabilize disturbed areas. These measures shall be satisfactory to the Superintendent of Water, Sewer, and Engineering and shall remain in place until such time as natural vegetation has been successfully established. 3, prior to issuance of a final CO, the applicant shall sign a stormwater control facility maintenance and access agreement in order to ensure the proposed stormwater facilities are installed and maintained per plans. 4, prior to site disturbance, the applicant shall participate in a pre-construction meeting with the town of Niskayuna and shall address any concerns raised by the town or designated town engineer. 5, prior to site disturbance, the site plan map shall be modified to reflect agreed upon decisions of the pre-construction meeting, if any, and distributed as required to the town and to all involved contractors. Final site plan shall be submitted to the town labeled for construction. 6, prior to site disturbance, confirmation shall be made by the applicant to the Department of Public Works that material specifications and site details, including road and utility plans, profiles meet town standards. 7, prior to the pre-construction meeting, any engineering and drainage concerns will be addressed to the satisfaction of the town superintendent of Water, Sewer, and Engineering, including item 7 in the TDE comment letter dated February 3rd, and that's regarding landslide potential, making sure that the soil is properly stabilized. Number 8, prior to the pre-construction meeting, any questions or concerns raised by the town designated engineer will be addressed by the applicant in a formal letter to the town. 9, prior to the pre-construction meeting, the applicant shall provide written approval from the New York State Department of Transportation for the curb cut along Route 7. 10, as condition of the special use permit, hours of operation for the property shall be dawn to dusk. 11, as a condition of the special use permit, a thick vegetative buffer shall be established along the Route 7 corridor to protect the residential nature of the corridor and limit impact to the adjacent properties. 12, as a condition of the special use permit, temporary on-site restroom facility shall be required at any time the memorial is open, with an area reserved on the site plan that will adequately serve for the construction of permanent bathrooms in the event they are deemed necessary by the town in overseeing foundation. And 13, finally, All large events that require traffic control, Niskuna Police presence shall be coordinated with the Town of Niskuna Police Department well in advance of such event. And that's it for all the conditions for this resolution. Do I have a motion for approval for the resolution? Moved by Mr. Khan for approval and seconded by Mr. Laflamme. Thank you. And we can have some discussion now.
All right, so I mean, these conditions, they all are reflecting of the discussion we've had to date. I think the drawings, per the correction, per the amendment you had made, that, they look fine. They had, considered everything that we had actually talked about in the past few meetings. So yeah, I mean, this has been a long journey, and it's good to be here on a night like this.
Have you any other comments? Anybody?
I just have a couple
no.
quick questions.
Sure.
First is just on a quick condition 12. So just in case there's a determination for needing more bathrooms, it says it's conjunctive, both town and overseeing foundation. So in other words, if the town says they need it, but the foundation says no, it's still no because it's both have to agree. Is that what we intended?
So, I mean, we actually specifically put in that both agree, and that's because we want that communication to be there.
Okay.
But I mean, if the town really, really feels like there's a huge issue and the overseeing foundation doesn't, like, you want to be sitting at the table and having that conversation and hopefully, coming to some kind of resolution together.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So the and is intended that it's both
was
have to agree
intended.
upon it.
Mhm.
Okay. And then secondly, it's just, I know this is not specifically within the purview, not about the funding, but just sort of the question we have about in the horrible event that there is some form of vandalism or something needs to be cleaned, or even not even vandalism, but something needs to be cleaned up there. What is going to be the process for making sure that the foundation actually takes care of it? Is it the person's the chair of the board who's ultimately chair of the foundation who's ultimately responsible for that? Because that's a question I've had a few people ask me.
I mean, and Dan can jump in here, but typically if something's going wrong with the site plan after site plan approval, it's actually cited for like lack of compliance
Right.
with the site plan resolution and or property maintenance issues that are directly addressable by code.
Right.
Correct.
Right. Before, yeah. So did it on that. So
Yeah, that was our, having looked at the code, there are provisions in the code that would directly address this through your code compliance officer or your planning office that would be able to, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's enforceable.
Yeah.
Right, but because it's a foundation that's going to be overseeing as opposed to like a private owner.
Well, there's a board,
Yeah.
and the board is made up of Mr. Lozman, Mr. Rosenthal, Mr. Lewenden. They're here, they're on the board. And so as with any, we, at this point, there's no executive director. It's an all volunteer board, but to the
Right.
extent that there are issues, the town has their number, has my number, has the numbers and can say, hey, there's an issue, this needs to be addressed. And I think through the zoning code, it'll have to be addressed.
So theoretically, I mean, again, just playing this out, again, it's just sort of just ultimately the person who's the executive director of the foundation ultimately is the one who would be personally then responsible for then making sure that is executed.
I think to the extent that the town wants us to designate a contact person, I think this is what you're getting at. To the extent that the town wants us to designate a contact person for these types of issues, we can absolutely do that. Whether that person is the executive director, the president of the board, or a designated person on the board, which the town knows this is who we can contact about this, because it's going to be a park-like memorial, and it's going to be generally open to the public. If something comes up and one of our board members is not aware of it, I think the board certainly would want to be made aware of it immediately so they could also address those issues promptly. So if you're looking for a contact person, we can definitely do that for you.
But and I mean, there is essentially a legal owner when they subdivide the parcel. It'll probably be an LLC. And the sad story is, I mean, there are a lot of properties in the town of Niskuna that aren't actually managed by one private owner. And we do cite LLCs, and we do, if there's ever issues, like mail to all parties involved and pretty much cite everyone you could possibly imagine. So, we have some experience with that.
Right, so it's actually the board members who would be the, it's just sort of thinking through the worst case scenarios.
Yes, and I mean, I do understand where you're coming from because, but at the same level, if what I think you're asking for is if there's a problem, is there someone that we can contact that can address that issue? The answer is yes. If it makes you, there's going to be contact information that the assessor is going to have, that the town board's that the planning staff is going to have for all of these things. And if we need to designate a point person, we're more than happy to do that.
Would you do me a favor and introduce both yourselves?
Oh, I'm sorry, Dan,
That's right.
I'm Dan Hubble, counsel for the applicant.
Thank you. Mr. Hirschberg, the
Dan
engineer.
Hirschberg, with the engineer for the applicant.
Thank you.
And I don't want my questions in any way. It was because I think you all have done a fabulous job in getting this to the finish line here. It's just a question that I've had a couple of people ask me just sort of about the long term. This is a great idea. I think it's fantastic for the area. I think it's going to be a major tourist attraction for the area. It's just sort of thinking through the larger, inevitably there's going to be some knucklehead out there who's going to decide to make a statement, and it's just, it's how the process is for how it's going to get taken care of.
We certainly hope that's not the case, but we're certainly aware of the potential for that.
Okay.
Not that we want to contemplate the possibility of this not coming to fruition, being how far down the road we are and how wonderful a plan this is. I know that when in the early goings, you discussed the possibility of establishing a decommissioning fund, and we haven't addressed that in recent meetings, but I'm just curious if the foundation is still planning on establishing such a fund.
My response to that is twofold. One, unless if the planning board has required this of other applicants, we would be resistant to that. Two, I think we've talked about, we did at some time talk about a decommissioning fund. I don't know how to put it. I'm fairly confident that that's not going to be a conversation down the road. We have a significant number of people who are lined up behind this. And I think the other things that the board has made a commitment to we don't have to do this, but the board has made a commitment to the planning board that, we're not going to start constructing this until we've got the funds raised or the financing in place.
And I know it has been a while, but we did actually put the decommissioning stuff in our recommendation to the town board. And I think it was at that point set aside and not made a condition of the special use permit.
Dan, as long as we have so many people here tonight in a public event, could you give us the latest state of play, where you are, fundraising, estimated time of start, just as a matter of disclosure?
Well, at this point, where we're at in terms of fundraising is we have a fundraising committee formed. They've identified certain individuals within the community who we are in discussion with that being major donors to this. I'm not going to disclose who those people are. At the same point in time, we have a rough estimate as to about what this thing's going to cost. Again, I'm not going to disclose it at this point in time. The goal was to get through this approval process and then use that as the opportunity to really hit the ground running on on a more public fundraising campaign. And so we've had a number of discussions as well with political officials, et cetera, trying to pull together every dime we can to get this thing built. It's a general answer without too many specifics.
And could I just ask one just small engineering question, Dan Hirschberg? I'm looking at the lighting plan, and do you anticipate it'll be illuminated 24 in the evening hours, or a little? Just give us a little distance.
No, our goal there was not to illuminate 24 hours, other than pick a couple of the fixtures and make them 24 hours for security purposes. The majority of the lights will not be lit 24 hours. They'll be lit around dusk time so that people can, quite honestly, dusk in the winter time might be at 4 o'clock, and
Right.
you want to light it for enough for people to get out. The lights won't burn very often at all on that facility. They will be shut off, I think we said by 11 p.m. I think we had said that at a previous meeting. They'll be shut off by 11 p.m. and probably earlier because there's no reason to keep it illuminated. We don't want people attracted to come there if it's closed.
And do you anticipate any ambient light radiating off the site to neighboring across the street, to abutters, or?
No, we did the photometric plan. It shows we're down to 0 at all the property lines as required. And not only that, we switched to low-level bollard lighting around the memorial itself to keep that very low. We have some low pedestrian-sized fixtures at 6 or 7 feet high, so we don't think there's any chance we're coming off. And not only that, even though light doesn't go off the project, quite often there's a glow, just it's lit so heavily it would glow. This project will not glow. It'll be strictly, the lighting is strictly there. If people are there about dusk time, they can see their way out, get to their car and go. And my guess is we'll probably turn it off shortly after people leave. We'll try to find a proper time for it, and we'll probably time it like that. And only leave on a couple fixtures for security purposes.
Okay, any other questions? I just got one comment on the resolution. Laura, just be for you. Your references, Hirschberg Consulting Engineers, Land Surveyors, dated 5/1/2017. I know there's been a series of revisions. Do we need to change that?
So the only reason I didn't say last revised on is because he doesn't have a cover sheet and the last revised date varies on the different sites.
Right.
So I just thought it was simpler to just use the date. So the actual date on all of the plans is the original date of the
Okay.
memorial.
That's something we'll trust that the, planning and engineering, when you go through your pre-construction, all your meetings, anyway, you'll
We'll
have the
do it
latest.
for
Make
construction,
sure we have the latest
yeah.
revision, of course, since it's not specific.
Right, I mean, that is a condition of,
Yeah.
what we're saying. On that note, Laura, do you want to restate your wetland delineation comment?
For
on
the
this district?
subdivision, I think that's really the only comment I have, but I mean, because the subdivision map is so zoomed out, if you look at it, and I'm sorry, I was just looking at the monument sign and realized I didn't really address that. But you can't really read. I know when it gets bigger you can, but we don't need wetlands delineated on a subdivision plan. I think it's cleaner to just have the lines on the subdivision plan and then the wetlands delineated in the site plan.
Right, that's the previous resolution anyway, right?
Right.
So that would be for the subdivision. not for-
Yeah, I just wanted to cover it in both,
Yep.
underneath both resolutions.
Okay.
I'll point out that in the SWIP, in the maintenance agreement area of the SWIP, we lay out the dates of the latest plans. I think we have in the stormwater pollution prevention plan, not on the diagram, that large document that you can use for whatever you want to use it for. Very people read it, but it's got to stay on site and accessible to contractors. But in there, we list the dates of the last documents, and we'll amend that to pick up any last amended date that we have to.
Okay, great. All right, any other questions or comments for the applicant or amongst the board?
So sorry. I actually think that the monument sign as proposed will need a variance from the zoning board unless you can shrink it down to 16 feet, but I was just double checking and you're very close. It's 8 feet, 6 inches by 25 inches. So if you can shrink it down to 8 feet by 24, no, yeah. Is that gonna be right? Then it would be 16.
All right, is that something we can handle during the, the review process with engineering, Laura? Do we need to?
So essentially, yes. Just noting for the record that either the proposed monument sign will either need a variance from the zoning board because the planning board can't grant a waiver on signage in the R1 zoning district, or you guys will have to shrink it down to meet the 16 square feet, which is not a whole
Okay,
lot. You're shortening it by half.
And we don't need a decision on that tonight because we can work that through when you get a building permit. Would that be the case that we catch it, Laura?
That's absolutely true. We
So
can
that
also
way
do
we
it
don't have
through
to
building
hold things
permit.
up for that tonight, all right?
Yeah.
Just be aware of it and we'll come through it.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions or comments or concerns? Okay, seeing no one else, could you please call the roll?
Mr. LaFlamme?
Aye.
Mr. Tributenis?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin?
Aye.
Mr. Darpino?
Aye.
Mr. Oster?
Aye.
Chairman Walsh?
Aye. Site plan approval of the Capital District Jewish Holocaust Memorial is approved. Thank you.
Dr. Lozman want to.
Sure, Dr. Lozman?
I cannot let this evening go by without a word of thanks. First, I want to thank Dan Hubble from Whiteman, Ostman, and Hannah for our legal counsel. I want to thank Dan Hirschberg for being our engineer on this project, Dan Dembling, our architect, and Scott Lowendon for being our landscaping architect. They all have participated meeting after meeting without any charge at all. They volunteered their time. And I think one has to take a step back and ask why. Why have they done this? And I do believe it's because it's a matter of the heart. They felt deep in their heart they were doing something of significant value, trying to improve our society, trying to show that something of educational value may help fight against prejudice and bigotry and hatred, and I commend them for that. Secondly, I'd like to thank the planning board. Your professionalism has been extraordinary. It has been a privilege and an honor to work with you, and deep in my heart, I'm very grateful that we have this opportunity. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lozman.
Thank you, Dr. Lozman.
And congratulations on this milestone to your project team and to the foundation. Congratulations. Okay. All right, and we don't have any further discussion tonight on the Holocaust Memorial, so we'll move on in the agenda. We have some more resolutions to address. Okay. Give it 1 second here for this. Yep, no problem. And just do me a favor, if you're going to talk out there, it's okay, but please close the door so we don't hear you, that's all, okay? I mean that in a nice way. I mean, just-
I think you said it just fine.
I'll let the door hit you on the way out. Yeah,
I can't take that back.
he's very charming. Our commissioner is very charming.
It's business, right?
Okay.
That's great.
Okay, now we can move on. All right, so now we have, let's see where are we? Okay, new business number 3, resolution 2020-08, a resolution to make a recommendation to the town board for special use permit for a mixed-use building at 2220 Crescent Ave. And let's see, we'll have the resolution in our packet. And make sure there's a couple conditions here. And basically, this resolution is the recommendation to the town board on a special use permit to convert an existing multifamily residential building at 2220 Crescent Road into a mixed-use building, which would have family apartments and a cosmetology, electrology retail service. There's 2 conditions. A landscape buffer shall be included along the additional parking spaces to screen the residential homes on Crescent Ave, and the final site plan approval by the planning board. So if the town board approves special use permit, it will come back to us. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Khan for adoption. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Seconded by Mr. Laflamme. Do we have any discussion? Is the applicant here tonight?
Hey, Frank's coming.
Oh,
Frank's with the back.
Frank's
All
here.
right, awesome.
Yeah, we're also, let's see, we're not down for discussion later, but if we have any questions for Mr. Herba while he's here, we can also talk about that.
Good evening. Gail King has asked me to be here tonight because she's been giving you plans, I guess, that are kind of sketchy. I think you have a pretty good idea what she wants to do with the building, but I did have a plethora of information for that lot from the various surveys that have been done around the area recently. And so we were able to present that schematic concept drawing of what she can accomplish there. Now, I've already told her that, before she goes to final site plan approval, she's going to need to get a full survey so that we can really see where everything is. But that's a pretty good general idea of what's there right now.
Right.
So thank you, Mr. Harper, for putting that together. When I had spoken to Ms. King during the week, I told her that in order for us to get to this moment, we needed to see something a little bit better than,
Well, we spoke. so-
and we spoke also. So I'm glad that she actually had you, kind of like right when we were having a conversation, she had mentioned you were actually working on it. So that's good. For the rest of the board, I did include, I did ask Laura to include in the package, just my thoughts from looking over both the code and the property. That commercial neighborhood zone, this is a movement in the right direction with the mixed use. However, it's clear from just the physical geography of that area, the road, the buildings, their proximity, the garages, everything else, that fully sustaining commercial mixed use, commercial highway mixed usage in all of those buildings, which could happen at some time in the future, is going to take quite a bit of engineering work and quite a bit of, thought from the planning board. So I just wanted to make that, to put that on the record, because one of the things we need to consider is just the general character of the neighborhood. And this begins a process potentially of what can happen in the future with other buildings and other other buildings within, within that area.
Well, there is one item that you probably should take a real hard look at, and that's the fact that Crescent Ave is a wide road.
Right.
And there is plenty of room for some additional parking in front of these buildings on Crescent that I don't think would be too obstructive to the people across the street.
Right.
It's a relatively small area anyway. It's not going to be traffic per se. I don't think you're really going to be introducing a great amount of traffic.
Right. In all honesty, I think that's the only engineering degree of freedom we have is actually on-street parking.
Mhm.
Because it looks virtually impossible. I think, Mr. Herba has actually, I think, eked out as much space he can to get those 6 parking spots. And there are notice to the board, it's not 8, it's actually 6. Because, I had looked at it that, a little bit earlier from when Mr. Herba did his drawing, there was no way you can get 8 in there.
No, eight are not going to fit unless we, convert to very small cars.
Yeah. So that was the only point I wanted to raise, is that it's a situation where we can be going in the right direction relative to the code, relative to the usage, but it's just that because we haven't so far, and the plan hasn't been, thought through enough when that section of town was put into place, we're going to be challenged if more of this wants to happen. So I do have one question. Sorry,
No,
sorry,
go ahead.
Chairman, I do have one question.
No problem.
The special use only applies to this business, right? So we'd had this discussion before, I think a few times ago.
So the special use applies to it becoming a mixed-use building with that square footage of commercial space.
Right.
And then site plan approval only applies to this specific business.
Right.
And then if the business was going to change, it would require tenant change site plan approval by the planning board. And if it was a more intense use, you guys could regulate at that
Right.
point. But you should have enough parking for the square footage, because if it's retail to retail, it would be tough to be like,
No.
it'd be tough to be like, we don't really like your retail, it's too much, but
Yeah,
So-
I had misspoke. I had meant actually the site plan is specific to this business. I just wanted to verify that again.
Yeah.
I know from our past experience, but I just wanted to verify.
So I think we're in good shape with the resolution. We'll move it on town board. Town board has their public hearing already scheduled for February 25th.
Yep.
So if anybody needs, would like to speak at the public hearing for the town board for the special use permit, based on that, they probably would have they have a resolution the same night, or is the resolution going to be?
We were proposing a resolution for the same night just because they only meet once a month.
Okay. And then obviously if they grant a special use permit, then we'll come back and we'll get through the details, engineering details, get a little bit further into this.
Right. Well, her plan on this is to try to accomplish something within the next year's time, prior to the time that the reconstruction starts on, Knott Street. So, we do have some time to put it together, and she's prepared to do what she needs to do in
Yep.
order to accomplish that.
Did Mr. Herba see the notes I put together? Did he get it?
I don't think I forwarded them on to him.
Okay, because a lot of that's going to come up in site plan,
Hmm.
assuming that, she does get approval for special use. So, the building is a little, it's going to need a little bit of a facelift with a couple of areas.
And if you go to our website, you can pull up the agenda for tonight,
Yeah.
which contains all the paperwork
Yeah,
that we
okay.
have. You can
Very
take a
good.
look at it, okay?
We were, at this particular time, we were just addressing the square footage.
Agreed, and that's why we're just leaving it there for now. And I'm just letting you know, just in looking forward to the future, that there's just.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Anybody else have any comments, questions for the applicant? We already have a motion and a second.
Just one question. Is there any discussion about continuation of signage for the site? What's the anticipation? I think she has currently an illuminated sign in her building on North Street. Do I have that right?
I'm not sure. Is that illuminated?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I thought there was like an open sign, at least at a minimum. Anyways, what is?
I haven't really spoken to her about the sign. I know it's been brought up. I would imagine that, I would attempt to, just put a small sign on the front of the building. It's not like she needs to advertise. People know where they're going when they're going to her place. So we just need a sign that, indicates that here you are.
And we'll work through that, site plan.
Right.
Okay. Anything else? No? Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Mr. Scributennis?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin?
Aye.
Mr. Darpino?
Aye.
Mr. Oster?
Aye.
Chairman Walsh?
Aye. The recommendation, the positive recommendation to the town board for special use permit for mixed-use building at 2220 Crescent Ave is approved.
Hopefully we see you more.
So I do have one thing. It's unrelated to this, but related, but not specific to the decision we made. Ms. King's had this concern about the county construction, and it's actually been a big impetus for her to actually take on the process of moving her business, et cetera. So I haven't seen the county's plan for construction, but the other businesses there, are they gonna, I had asked this before once, I know we captured in a minute, but I don't think we really discussed it. Are they gonna be okay during this construction process?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this with the county a couple times. They are reaching out to the other business owners, with meetings on it. And their intention would be to come up with a construction plan that would allow access to the businesses at all times. I think the only time that the businesses might have to close is for like a day, which they can schedule, on a Sunday or on off hours or whatever, when they're doing like the work that's directly adjacent to the foundation. Because essentially they're getting brand new sidewalks and they're all going to be wide enough that they're ADA accessible and they're, getting rid of the steps and everything. But the county is very understanding to those businesses need to be made to be allowed to be open, channels for pedestrians. I mean, that's one of the biggest comments that they've heard, and they're taking it really seriously, and they are going to come up with a construction plan that will have as least impact to businesses as it can.
Yeah, I'm just trying to equalize the order of magnitudes because you have one business here, Ms. King's, who's now taken a very significant step.
Well, that's her
pending the
choice.
Construction. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. But I just want to make sure that, given that she's got the pulse of the place in the local area there, just to make sure that, at least.
Well, I always say for the record that Ms. King and I completely disagree about this project.
Right. No, agreed. But at the end of the day, she's taken a significant step, right?
But that's her choice.
Yep. And, and for her, it benefits her business, right? She's got some parking that's close by and she's moving to a first floor from a second floor establishment. So there's some advantages for her. Also
And
along
then,
those lines.
there's a commercial vacancy there when the improvements are done. I think you'll see a bump. I mean, I think you'll see a lot more people. It's going to be a lot more inviting. There's going to be a lot more walking, lighting, just, a general facelift to the area. I think you'll become more desirable to go there. I don't think that, I do think there's a benefit to.
Yeah, the key thing is I
Adding
wanted to just make
personal-
sure that the other businesses have complete awareness. They're comfortable with it. They're okay with it. They know what's going to happen.
I don't know about comfortable, but I mean, change is hard.
Right.
The county is being very sensitive to the things that they've brought to them. And I have been at the meetings with the counties multiple times with business owners present. So, and they want differing things. There's a variety of business owners there, and some of them have different visions for how they want their business to operate and how they see cars needing to be able to park. So, I mean, will everyone be completely happy and comfortable? No. Some of them may move their businesses, but it is going to be $1.5 million pumped in the town center overlay district for sidewalks, lighting, and general safety.
We have an internal meeting scheduled. I don't know if you saw this yet, Laura, March 3rd, just for internally for us to be on the same page with Schenectady County. So we can answer, some more questions directly, because we've had tentatively on the town board resolution agenda to make a recommendation by the town board to Schenectady County as to the project that we feel is the best fit. but there has been some changes since then. So perhaps at the next meetings, we can have an update for the planning board.
By project, you mean the options?
The options, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the county has agreed to that yet, but I've reached out to them.
And they did mention at one of the meetings that construction wouldn't be until next year, 21, right?
I mean, at this point, I think the construction schedule, yeah, because they haven't picked an option yet.
Yep.
So it does take a long time to go out to bid.
Plus, the bid documents will probably reflect the level of phasing of how the work will be done. And they just won't haphazardly start ripping up everything and leaving a storefront in construction mode for several months. So if the documents, I mean, I know the county's aware of that they want to phase this so that there's very little interruption to the storefronts.
Okay. Are we all set? Yep. Okay, we'll move on. We got some more resolutions. Next resolution is Resolution 2020-09, a resolution for a site plan amendment for Body Works Professionals at 1343 Balltown Road. The resolution's in our packet and posted online. There are no conditions, but basically the resolution, the way it's written, is that we would approve the freestanding monument sign and also have site plan approval, which was amended and included, I believe, in our packets, or it was updated via email, right? I think it was updated via email today. So let's, what we can do is we have a motion on this, Mr. Diarpino.
So move.
Move for adoption by Mr. Diarpino and seconded by Mr. Oster. Thank you. And we have representatives here, so we can have some discussion.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nick Pavoldi.
And Nick,
Good evening. I'm Emma Van Voorst with AJ Signs, helping to represent my client. I'm going to pass out a couple pieces of paper. I know you do have.
yeah, we've got this, yeah, okay.
Sorry, I'm going to share a little bit.
I can share over here.
Oh, you got?
Actually, we got it. So,
Thank you. Here you go, sir.
no, I think it's the same here. It's-
Same?
Yep.
It's the same,
Yeah,
That's the same.
Okay.
30 by 40.
Well, actually, no, it's not. It's actually a little bit bigger.
Here's.
The measurements are back.
Yeah,
bigger.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, yes, I was looking at the other sign, the wall sign, so it looks like the double-sided swinging sign is the same size as the wall sign now. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
No, this is.
Okay,
So upon a little bit further discussion, we would like to propose, I know that it was discussed to potentially settle on doing 4 square feet for the hanging sign or monument sign, as you will. After further discussion, we would like to propose something that is a little bit larger. I did print out a piece of paper or a picture. You'll see this in front of you. This is it's a Google satellite image. And as you can see, there is an arrow pointing to the first, the driveway off of Belltown Road. And this kind of gives you a car vision perspective. And the reason why we really wanted to increase the size is because, as you can see, driving down this road, especially during summer and spring, when trees are in full bloom, this is not an easy driveway to see. And as you know, Balltown Road is very, very busy. So as we have, I mean, they have clients coming in all hours of the day. So you're not just 9 to 5. The appointments vary. So they could have a client coming in at rush hour. They could have a client coming in very early in the morning. And we feel it's very important to have an ease of knowing exactly where this location is, especially because it will be new. So having a sign that is 28 inches by 21 inches as original proposed is just, it's not big enough. I deal with signs all day, every day. And quite frankly, that is the size of a real estate sign. So we really feel that it is pertinent to do something substantial and big enough so you don't have people slamming on their brakes because they don't see the driveway or the sign soon enough. And, you know, it starts to become a hazard, actually, when people cannot see a sign and, you know, no matter what, you don't want to miss your turn. So this is what we're proposing. Please let me know if you have any questions, concerns. I'm happy to answer them.
So I just want to understand,
The sign, the sign that you've given out here is significantly bigger than what was in our original packet. Is that,
So the large, originally in our packet, the large sign was actually on the building.
Yep.
And now the freestanding monuments, the swinging monument sign.
They're two of the same size, just that one's mounted to the,
Yeah.
you know.
And you're
swinging.
willing to shrink down the wall sign? I know previously discussed prior.
Yeah. But the wall sign meets the standards, so, you know, we were pretty good with that, didn't have any issues at all, so.
The space for the wall sign is a little bit smaller than what we would like for the proposed. I think it might look a little too big.
Yeah.
So shrinking that down makes a little bit more aesthetically sense than having that be so big.
Yeah.
As you can see by that picture, by the time you pass by the building to see the wall sign, it's going to be too late and
Yeah.
you're going to miss your turn.
And that's why we, you know, the resolution was written to allow monument sign, which aren't allowed there. So we were willing to, you know, help out, right, for the same reason. But I noticed that you have your image is going, you know, looking south, okay? My concern when I visited the site with the previous monument sign was that if you were driving north, if you're trying to pull out of there, I didn't want the sign obstructing the view. And so one of the positives of this smaller double-sided swinging sign was that hopefully you'd be able to see underneath it or around it. Because if they're coming down that hill from the south heading north and there's a light there, and if they, you know, the light, some people might say, I got to beat the light, you know, it's a tough spot to pull out from. Now, you could pull out, but when I was sitting there, it's like you have to kind of creep out. I was kind of imagining where the other monument sign was going to be. You'd have to kind of creep out a little bit, get pretty close to come out in the traffic to see around it. And we still don't have a site plan that shows exactly where the sign's going to go. So that makes it a little bit tough for us, you know, to make sure that there's no safety concerns.
I believe that on our original submission, there was a site map. It highlighted exactly the setback and the distance setback from the road. And it completely showed where we would propose.
Right,
I mean, the original submission shows the sign over the lot line.
Yeah, I mean,
It can't go there. This is what we had there.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think we had that level of detail at all. So,
Where the arrow points over?
you know, I'd need my magnifying glass.
Yeah, because there's the lot line.
Or, I mean, on the lot line. Is that what?
No, it would start there. The green line is just to show the 10-foot setback.
Oh, so you're showing it 10 feet back?
Yep.
the other thing I
Well, then
thought
let's
we
get rid of that
discussed,
Excuse me, could you clarify that? What you just said there, I didn't catch that.
Well, she's saying that the green line is showing the 10 feet back from the property line.
Okay.
And so they don't need the 10-foot back. So the
Oh,
green
okay.
line isn't the sign. Apologize.
Yeah, I'm
I thought
sorry.
The green
that
line was the
confusing.
monument.
Yeah, it
It
was.
was just to show the setback, and then where the arrowhead is on where it's pointing is where the sign would be.
Okay.
So to answer somewhat the question about it blocking the view, it would be set back enough so cars could creep up past it to look out and see either direction.
Do you know the height of the sign? The post, sorry.
The overall post height, hold on if I have it. What we always recommend is 36 feet above the grade, 36 inches above grade just for snow. So we would definitely be with under the 8 foot that is required for monument signs that are allowed in the zones that they allow for signs. So there's no, I don't even think, it might be 6.5. I can get that exact measurement for you, but that's also up for discussion. We can definitely work within what the board would like to see.
For the new hanging sign dimensions you proposed on the drawing you gave us, what's the scroll bracket size now? It was 30 for the 28-inch sign. It's about the same, 40 something.
It is about the same. It goes up a little bit. No, this one would be.
It would be 40 plus, right?
Yeah, it'd be a little bit denser. I can get you the specs on this as well if you'd like that.
So, Mr. Darpino, did you see this bigger version?
No.
Okay, so we're all seeing for.
No, we're all seeing it for the first time.
Yeah, and the other thing that we're also working on tonight isn't just the signage, it's also the site plan, which today we had an updated site plan via email showing that the handicap ramp going in and then losing the one parking space for the handicap ramp, converting the next parking space to the handicap parking space, and then putting 2 spaces where the one alongside the building is.
Correct, yeah.
And that's what you plan on doing, putting those 2 in?
That's the plan, yeah.
Right. So you meet the requirements of the parking, so that's good. So it's really,
Yeah, and it's a better place for
It's
the
a better-
handicap parking spot because where it was before was kind of down a hill and
Yep.
difficult to get to the building. So there's like no question that it's better to have the handicap
Yep.
parking space up closer to the building. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Nick, you only need 8 and you're not planning on building the 2 unless you need them. Is that right? Or are you feeling more like you'd want to build them?
2 extra parking spots.
Yeah, we're converting the 1 parking spot into 2. You need to add a little pavement
We would do that if we needed it.
if you needed
I
it. So
would,
it's
I would sort of reserve the right to want to do that in the future.
all right.
So that's in the agenda statement. Essentially, where the parking space is now would be banked for
Go
2
alongside the
parking
building,
spaces.
parallel.
Yeah, but they
to the-
technically don't need a waiver because they only need 8.
Right. Yeah, parallel to Alton Avenue, they only need 8, so you have 8, right? 1,
No, that was the original.
7, 8. Yeah, there's 9, so you're going to lose 1 for the ramp, so you still end up with 8.
Correct.
Right.
We'd have 8.
Laura, the only thing is that we got this updated map, today, and it's fine, but if you're going to bank the parking, that, it doesn't say that on the drawing that was submitted either.
Well, it doesn't technically have to be banked. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you guys can talk about it being banked or require for them to
Yeah,
build
But they
it.
said they're not going to build it, so it's theoretically, it doesn't even need to be
Doesn't
banked.
need to be banked.
So they don't
They're-
need it.
The code would require 8 spots.
Right.
They went through site plan approval with 9 spots. We're saying that they're essentially moving one of those spots. Or they're
All
losing
right,
9
I
spots.
got you.
Because I was originally preparing it with a waiver, but the code doesn't require the
Right.
waiver because
Based on the square footage. 8
based on the
sufficient.
square footage, you're only required to
Right.
have 8.
Okay.
So, I mean, he is essentially banking it. And you guys could talk to him about banking or say you need to build it.
Well, I'm okay with not building it because you got to tear up the lawn, green space, and so on and so forth to do it. So I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure the resolution reflects the correct site plan.
Yeah.
That's all, because we all have old information. We just update it today, and so it's a little hard for us, we're kind of engineering this as we go along versus, having it all settled out and agreed to and know where we're at. My only concern still is, not with the size of the sign, it might be fine. For me personally, I'll speak for, is the placement. You show a thing on, you said you can inch out or you can see around it. How do we demonstrate that? It sounds like we're just doing one of these. We don't really have that information that says it's okay where it's going to be placed. I mean, right?
Other than kind of trying to work within the code of what is generally allowed.
Yeah.
10-foot setback, it's definitely substantial. I mean, other places, other towns, it's, between 5 to 15.
So it'd be, where's the 10-foot, Laura? That would be.
Yeah, so that's interesting because we thought that it needed to be within the 10-foot because we misread that map.
Okay.
And we thought that it needed to be within that 10-foot setback and set the resolution up for that waiver. So, I mean, I guess the question is smaller sign closer to the right of way or larger sign setback farther or still smaller sign setback
So the
farther?
little green line is the sign on this thing, the indication of the
No,
sign?
she's saying that the little green line is the 10 feet where the sign
Okay.
isn't going to be.
And so the sign at the end of the sign will be at that arrow where you're drawing. Oh, okay, I got you now. I got it.
So, I mean, it's substantially farther back than we were thinking it was
Right.
going to be.
Right.
I just have a point of clarification. So is your position that you no longer are requesting this monument smaller sign that you said was the size of about like a for sale sign, that your request is this larger sign, meaning the planning board, if they were to grant the waiver, has to do an analysis on granting the minimum waiver necessary to avoid the undue hardship that would be caused if we were to strictly apply the code? So just so that we know where to focus, are you saying you no longer, application, we shouldn't be focused on these dimensions, we should be focused on the larger one?
Correct.
So that this wouldn't be an option that you would want anymore?
We would strongly push to propose the larger sign just for the reasons discussed.
Yeah, so that's helpful.
So I think my initial takeaway of the smaller sign in the original packet is that it's not the size of a real estate sign. It's a little bit smaller. And to me, if it was almost the size of a real estate sign, it would almost look like a building that's perpetually up for sale. You just keep seeing the same size sign. I thought this one was really good in scale. It's pretty tastefully done. And I think that you would see it very clearly north, southbound, or or coming up Van Antwerp.
It was noted that it was suggested to me to look at the law office sign that was down the street a little bit. And quite frankly, I mean, I've driven by Balltown Road or on Balltown Road several times. I never even noticed that sign. And for me, I deal with signs every day. So I'm always looking at people's signs. It wasn't until tonight when I think I was stopped somewhat in front of it that I could see it. But if I was a client at 4:00 having an appointment there, I'd probably slam on my brakes and miss the driveway. I could not see it. I think when you're discussing, I run into this a lot. When you're discussing 28 inches, you think it's big. But when you step back 30, 40 feet, it's not big at all. It's fairly small. So perception of size and visually, and then what's on paper, numbers on paper, it differs. And 40 inches is not big. It really is not, especially when you're on a busy road. There's a lot of traffic. It's also not a brightly colored sign either. It's a neutral color that blends in. It's not orange. It's not red. It's not hot pink. So we're dealing with a sign that has a very nice logo. It's blends in with aesthetically with other properties. It's not sticky. It's not straight out. It's not look at me. I'm here. I'm new. Neon. In my opinion, this is a nice, subtle sign that will get the job done because essentially signage is to tell people where they're going. And it's a safety, it's a safety thing. And I believe that if you don't have something big enough, there will be accidents.
Is it lit?
Nope. Well, they potentially would like to ground lit, but it's not internally lit. That's something that we haven't discussed further just yet.
What's the construction of the post?
So it would be we probably would do a small little, we'd probably pound in steel post and then it would be a sleeve. So you'd have a steel post, we put cement in just to make sure it's sturdy. And then what you see is the white, we'd slip over a sleeve and then a cap.
So it's a white vinyl sleeve.
Yep.
By the way, Laura, if we didn't want to grant the monument sign, they would have to go to the ZBA?
They could appeal the decision to the ZBA. Yep, that's correct.
Well, I mean, hang on. The code doesn't allow for a monument sign, right? So they could just go.
Well,
We have the ability to give a waiver for that, but
we have the ability to give a waiver. Yeah.
to some extent, they could always go to the ZBA to get that instead of from us.
I mean, that's correct. Essentially, when the ability to waive or ask for relief from the zoning board of appeals overlaps, the applicant has a choice. Although sometimes the reason that they'll choose the planning board is they sort of get two bites at the apple, because if the planning board says no, they still have the right to ask the zoning board. It's not exclusive, but if the zoning board says no, it's no.
And just for the record, we didn't think that was not my assumption the angle to go in at.
Yeah. So, and the reason they're here is because when we did the site plan approval, we specifically excluded the signage because it wasn't ready at that time.
Right, plus the site plan has changed. with the-
Yeah, so it's actually even a
So
site
there's a couple
plan
things we're looking at
amendment.
tonight. What's the timetable as far as site plan? We need site plan approval in order to get a building permit or?
I mean, they can operate under their existing site plan. I just felt like if they were coming back for their signage, you guys should look at the changes in the
Yeah,
parking.
no, I think we should. Because I'm just, as you can see, we got caught off guard with the changes tonight. And I know you want to get in business and get going, so I don't want to hold you up. So if there's no holdup, one suggestion would be, to pull this resolution. We actually already have a motion and a second, so we'd have to vote it down. And then we have a chance to update it because all the references in the resolution don't agree with what you just gave us, the submittal. They don't agree. The placement of the sign, what the waiver is. So we need to, so that's a suggestion would be that we rework the resolution, get a chance to talk about the sign and go take a look and that kind of thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I know that, Nick, you and I exchanged emails. A
Right.
site visit's really helpful for a couple of reasons. One, we want to walk the building. We can look at the parking arrangement. I think the way you're going to handle the ramp out front too should just have a good set of eyes on it before we see it. I feel pretty strongly that the original submission for the monument sign is very fitting for that neighborhood. There's, like you said, the one other small law office sign, and I believe KinderCare is the only other monument sign that's within that block up there. and we could take a measurement of what that is.
I was gonna do that, and I think it's substantially bigger.
I would say substantially, but it's probably larger because it is on 2 posts and it is rectangular. But I would like to compare it to the 40 inches by 30 inches sign.
Well, I did push Emma to do 40 inches, and the reason is we have a pedestrian sign at our offices in Saratoga Springs, and that's 36 inches. And that's meant for the sidewalk and walking by it. So I figured driving by from 10 feet away, I thought, well, maybe we'll ask for a few inches bigger than the pedestrian sign that you're walking by, because that's easy enough to see, but we don't expect necessarily people to see it when they're driving by. So again, we do have, or at least we wanted to have something that was really architecturally sympathetic in the neighborhood. And I think Bodywork Professionals vibe is sort of that. It's got sort of a, not an antique feel, but it's got a sort of heritage feel to it. And that comes from an antique piece of furniture that was given to me, and it's a long story, but that's where our logo and everything comes from. And I felt like 40 inches was for I guess, wayfinding, just being able to find where you are on the street. You could see that very easily, and it wouldn't be a difficult thing to see. And I was basing that from our neighbor, and the neighbor sign I do feel like is challenging to read. I've driven by there so many times. It took me a while to sort of comprehend what that was driving by. And I didn't measure it truthfully, but it's, probably in that 20-inch range. It's somewhere around that, probably 24, 26 inches, something like that. So I felt like this is pretty simple. It's not an advertisement by any way. It's simply just stating this is a fact. This is who we are. And I feel like it would do an undue hardship not to be able to share the name of the business is here. This is where this place is. And I feel like a 40-inch sign, 36 inches again was a pedestrian sign. And if you guys would feel like 36 inches was acceptable, that would be totally fine with me as well. It's significantly smaller than the 16 square foot sign that we had proposed originally. I felt like the sign that was originally on the building when we bought it was way out of step with the scope of it was like this huge sign on this brick building. And I thought, this is crazy. So no matter what, we'd make one that was a little bit smaller in the building, something probably this size. And that was the other thing. It was, we'd have a sign on the building that was reflective of the sign that was on the street. And again, it's just so that you know where you are and that you know what business it is. It isn't like a big flashy thing. And we're not really we're not a super flashy. you're not gonna see huge banners up and those guys.
No, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we want you to be successful.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose here, right? We want you to be successful.
And the
So,
facade sign, I think we're okay with that, right?
yes,
That's fine, right?
it's
That's not an
smaller
issue.
than
It's within the code.
what's required. I mean, they can have room to grow there if they wanted to.
Could we just
Go ahead,
add
Mr.
that- Sorry, I was going to say, rather than have them come before us again, doesn't seem like your arguments are going to change with respect to, your burden of proof of proving undue hardship. Would you be, this would obviously be a question for both the planning board and for the applicant, amenable to adding some type of, a whereas clause that says that you'll have a site visit with the project lead for this, and then is the decision between 40 and 36 that you said you would be amenable to?
We'd be comfortable at going down to 36.
Yeah, so that would be a question for the planning board if they'd be comfortable with that.
So I
think you're ready to make that.
So I actually would like to know what the dimensions in the existing signs are. The KinderCare sign and the law office. Is that a reasonable ask?
And
I think
the
that's
olive
fine.
oil.
Yeah, of course.
Is KinderCare in the same zone?
Yeah.
It's in, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Well, I think we discussed at the last meeting our concern that if we approve something that might be perceived to be a little big, then everyone else is going to want to have a big sign. Every other business, the Ace Hardware, like they're all going to want to have something. And so it's going to take away from some of the character of that area.
Yeah. And look, that's why I brought up the ZBA option actually.
I wish,
Because of the,
excuse me, I'm sorry. I wish that at that, I know we had some difficulties with the meeting last time. I wish that I had a chance to attend that meeting, so I was in on the original discussion, because I think that would pre-know a little bit more leading into tonight. That way our voice was heard, because unfortunately it wasn't. That way I could maybe it could be a little bit more subjective than discussing when no one was present.
Which is our fault. We did not notify them. That was our fault.
Okay, but
Planning department.
all right, but we're here now, right? And we're seeing.
No, we
we're
are,
seeing
but
what
I
we got,
think, but we're
right?
also here just on a note that a full discussion was discussed before we were here last time. And we didn't really get to have our input and be before the board to discuss it a little bit more.
So I guess maybe the question the planning board's asking you now, though, like, is there a hardship to delaying the vote for 2 weeks?
There is, just because we have a long lead time on signage. So if
2
they're,
weeks, though? 2 weeks? Do you think?
we're going to start to get very busy come spring. So it does, it extends our lead times. It extends, the difference between being open for 2 weeks and having a sign versus being open and not having a sign.
I mean, that's the applicant's call. I mean, if they want the vote, I mean, you guys can take the vote, but if they're uncomfortable with the information, I don't know that the vote's going to go your way.
Well, again, and I apologize, but, we just got the updated site plan today, right? We had a resolution that was prepared last week, and the site plan and the resolution don't match. The signage, the request now is new versus what we've had, right? Tonight, you just handed it to us, so it's, we didn't have a chance to even embrace it and understand what, to look at it, and so we had a resolution to, try to help out tonight. So I'm going to defer to, to Mr. DiArpino, project lead, because he's been helping us out on this. I guess the question is, 40 by 30 or 36 by 30, if you think we should hold off and just go take a look, see what we've got, put it off for 2 weeks. We have a motion and a second on the floor, so we're going to have to vote on this resolution.
Or you guys can, I mean, you can say 28 inches and take that vote, and then if they want to change it, they can appeal elsewhere as
That'd be
well.
the other option. Just go forward with the resolution, which would approve the 28 by 21, and then we could still work on,
If we were to do that, can we change it to 30?
well,
So-
I heard 36 before.
Yeah.
No,
so-
I know, but there's a significance to the 30. So if you are going to vote on 28, we would suggest considering just 30,
So-
if that's the worst case.
I do have to say, and I'm going to echo Mo's points on this, right? I'm very much concerned about the precedents that we set by doing a planning board waiver. And so I would like to at least have something that we point to say, here's the reason why let's assume we do the waiver. Here's the reason why we did the waiver, because sign X that's already there is X square feet and sign Y is Y square feet. Therefore, this is what it is. So that when the business next door, the business 2 years from now comes in and says, well, I want this side sign, we can say, hang on, this was our reasoning. We looked at what was existing there. We have measurements. Right now, I don't think we know any of the measurements.
Correct.
Right? So
Do we already have that existing, so is there already a existing precedence in the neighborhood for sign size?
In that immediate area,
With
in that
vari-
immediate neighborhood?
with variance being granted for that
Right.
size? No.
So I have a couple clarifying questions. So just, Mr. Darpino, or in general, the size that was proposed to us in the packet for the monument and the one on the wall, are they basically swapping? The total square inches is the same. It's just we're moving the size around. Is that correct? Or did I
Just
miss
building
something?
two of the same sign is
No,
what
it's
they're
two of the
saying.
same
Yeah.
signs.
But we'd be
Supposed to
willing to
become
shrink
this big.
down the wall sign if that's something that. the
But did I
board-
hear you say that you could shrink down the wall sign to be the smaller size?
Yep.
Where the net difference of the total signage would be zero?
But I
Yep,
don't see the point in that because they're already well below what's required, on the facade. They can go bigger if they wanted to. So my view is that you just want to do two signs that are the same, right? It's bottom line. And one's going to be on the monument sign and one's going to be on the fascia, right?
I don't know if this would be considered a hardship, but the building is set back. You have CVS, which has large visibility from both angles, both roads.
Yeah.
Their sign is nice and big on their wall because you'd be able to see it driving in both directions. Since the building is set back a significant amount and there's heavy tree lines, you don't have any visibility from the road.
Yeah, but just so that's the argument that we're looking forward to the future with, because CVS was a special situation, right? If what was our situation with CVS? It was zoned differently there, right, or something.
No, it's done.
Same zone, but there was something special happening there. It's before my time, so I can't remember what
Yeah, I
it was.
don't remember. It's been so long.
There was actually a use variance because the parking lot went on to R2.
Right.
And yeah, and it was complicated. And there was a lawsuit on that because there was an access road to the parcel behind it. So there was a lot that went on with that TVS, and the facade was very
Right, and
important
so
because it was
that's-
residential. It was a huge rebuild.
Yeah, and so that's exactly the same argument I'm concerned about for the future, right? Because just like you're citing CVS and the nature of their sign, someone down the road is going to sign on the Body Works property and the nature of that sign. And for me, it's actually a little bit more of a procedural thing, actually, right? As a planning board to grant a waiver, there's got to be some data I'd like to point to that say, here's why we did it.
I think it would just be a matter of making sure that the minutes reflect your consideration of, the three enumerated factors that are, relevant for your consideration: existing conditions, site topography, site configuration. So no two sites are the same. So while it could set some precedent if you didn't have an understanding of the factors that you're supposed to look to waiver, unless it's another business going on to this exact same property, I don't see how it would have, that great of a precedent.
Yeah, it's more like the old town hall, that's still for sale, right? So something could happen there. And I think that's, so what we're concerned about is any other future
For that.
exchanges or tenant changes or development at all. That's a concern. All right.
So
Hmm.
I was comfortable moving forward with the packet as submitted with the 28-inch sign. If you do want to increase it even 2 inches, my recommendation would be to table this for 2 weeks. I meet with you on site. We'll take a look at this. We'll look at the building, look at all the issues we have here. I don't think 2 weeks is going to be detrimental to getting the signage done, especially if we could set something up this week. You'll be on the docket for 2 weeks from now, which is good. And
And we could have a resolution
You could have a
for approval
resolution
and
that's
it'll be all worked out and it'll be clean. Yeah.
Yep.
With the correct package, the correct site plan, because again, that was just revised today. We're also updating the site plan,
For whatever it's worth, my first question was to Mr. DiArpino, asking if he had seen this before, if he was comfortable with what's here.
Yeah.
Because, as a fellow planning board member, I trust his judgment on the packet that was put in front of us. And I was okay with the packet that's put in front of us.
Yeah.
I think it's tastefully done. I like the proportion of the signage. I think the colors are good. It's going to fit much better than the previous signage. I agree with you. The sign that was on there before, obviously, it was maxed out, brighter colors. It's not a rectangle. It is a little bit smaller, so the curve does help. But I think before we just keep throwing things out for, negotiations, let's have a site meeting and set it up, make it a priority.
we'll get there.
And just calendar wise, the next planning board meeting is prior to the next zoning board meeting. So it's not as if you were to, if they were to vote today, you would have a chance to go for ZBA before you would, the planning board. So
Would it give time? Yeah. it
Yeah,
would.
no, they would have already
yeah, the next.
missed the March. You only have 5 days to get on the March zoning board meeting. That's a completely different way of getting on agendas.
Oh.
You have to be on the zoning board agenda the 15th prior to the month that you're going.
So then I guess they do have to make a decision.
Yeah, but I feel pretty confident if you get together with Mr. DiArpino that you'll be able to work it all out and then we'll have a nice clean resolution.
Right.
And the documentation will be clean.
Yeah, and looking on the bright side, actually, as of today, we're sitting here, we actually don't know what the right answer is, what the signage should be.
Yeah.
So this could go to a larger sign, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 40 by 30 is fine. Well, but,
Right? And so it's just having a basis and a knowledge of actually what's there. So maybe,
Yeah, and I apologize, but like you said, we just got it all tight and just tough way to do business, Okay? All right, so it sounds like we're going to vote on this resolution and then,
You can make a motion to table and then
Can we?
the original.
Yeah, I was going to amend
We
it
do that?
to table the motion.
all right.
Two motions will save time.
So, all right, we're going to make Mr. DiApino is motioning that we table this resolution, rework it. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Khan. I guess we just do all in favor of tabling the resolution, signify by saying aye.
Will we be able to go over the parking and the ramp tonight?
Yeah, we can, as soon as we get done with this, we'll talk about that for a second, okay? All those in favor of tabling the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, none opposed, so we'll table the resolution. As far as the parking goes, you have a site plan that shows the two along the side. We'll just make a note on the drawing, and actually the drawing needs to be dated. There was no date on it. I don't believe it was a date that it was received by the planning office. Put the date on it, revision 0 or whatever, and just show that, you have the potential for the nice ninth spot, that it's not to be constructed at this time. And I think then it's clean also. because it was
Okay.
confusion to me. I thought, geez, they weren't going to do it, but, it shows it on the drawing. It doesn't say that it's there if needed or whatever, because you only need 8. Or you just show the 8 and you leave it at that. It's either way,
Yeah.
So,
I think the 9th could be convenient in the future.
Okay.
Is there a way to, would there be any advantage to waiting to have
yeah,
that?
yeah, we could bank, well, you don't have to bank it because it's not required, as Ms. Robertson, the town planner state. So you just put a note on the drawing, the 9th if needed, and that you would build it if you ever needed it.
Yeah, okay.
That's up to you.
Yeah, and then that would, again, that would help out, and everything be all clean and tidy for the site, along with the signage being resolved, okay? Any other questions at all?
Yeah, for what it's worth, that green line, I would like to see that dimension as being the sign setback.
Yeah,
I will revise that.
yeah, and I think when David goes out, that'll be one of the questions he'll be asking, where's the sign gonna go? Am I gonna be able to see okay when he pulls out of there? So we'll work through that too, okay?
I think it'd be nice too to see the entire site plan with the proposed addition of the stairs and second.
Yeah, we did get that today's mail, right? Is that the one, did you?
Okay, that was an email.
Yeah, it was an email today.
So is that, just a question on that then, are the stairs being built on top of asphalt?
On top of asphalt, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would there be some kind of hash marks kind of calling that out? Or will that be, will that be in a driving lane?
Kind of in the middle here. Right about there.
Yeah, basically the one parking spot is going to be consumed with the ramp there, and then the handicap parking, the updated drawing will show the handicap parking next to
Yeah,
it.
so I think it'll actually work really nicely because the handicap ramp is gonna come out on the hatch
Yeah.
marks of a handicap parking space.
Well,
So there'll be plenty of space for, people who aren't parking in a handicap space, but maybe still need to walk up a ramp. There'll be plenty of space for people to choose either the stairs or the ramp.
It's a very short grade change to get in there, so
10
the
inches.
ramp will be very subtle. In fact,
Right,
very subtle.
yeah, it'll be pretty small.
No, we think we're there, we just got to close, button it all up and we'll be all set, all right? Any other questions you have at all for tonight?
Is the ramp approved to build?
That's building permit, right?
Yeah, because you're operating under an earlier site plan, I think that's fine.
So if you have any questions, call planning office, Ms. Robertson, and
I
make
do all
sure.
the time.
No problem.
Like-
We're glad you do. It's better to ask than take action and then find out it was the wrong action. It's always good to ask, right? No, we'll get there. We'll get there next meeting, and Mr. Diopino, I'm sure we'll work it all out with you, okay?
And we really do apologize for the last meeting. That was just poor notification on the planning department side, so I apologize for the delay.
It happens.
Okay, all right? All right, thank you. All right. Thank you to everybody on the board for working through that. Okay, let's see, we have resolutions still. We have one more resolution, Resolution 2020-10, a resolution for site plan approval of Vision Works at 441 Balltown Road, Suite 1 at Mansion Square. Again, the resolutions include your packet. There are no conditions to this resolution. The signs that are included in the packet are compliant, either they're compliant or they fall within the variance that was previously granted. So basically, this resolution is for site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and the previous site plan approvals. Therefore, we should approve this tenant change.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Oster for adoption. Second? Second by Mr. DiArpino. Any discussion?
No, as I understand it, it's actually smaller, right? The smaller signs. It's on 3 sides, but isn't it like the
Yes.
signs themselves are actually smaller?
Yeah, so your packet may be slightly confusing because originally they submitted for 3 signs at 70 square feet, and they can't put a 70 square foot sign on the north side, north face without a variance. So so we talked to them and they changed the sign on the north facing side to 50 square feet. So that is within the code and the planning board is allowed to approve that sign on the north face. And the 2 on the east and the west face, and Clark can jump in here, are little smaller
Yep.
than their.
Yep.
Do you want to come up here?
Yeah, we have Mr. Morehouse representing the applicant, Vision Works. So,
So there's really, like Mo said, essentially slightly less signage on the east and west, and then a new 50 square foot sign on the north.
right. So they're within the previously approved waivers or variances, and the
And
new
then a
sign
new sign,
is okay.
which is this guy.
Right.
We stuck him in your packet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And basically they changed the tenant. Men's Warehouse, I assume, is empty. I didn't get a chance to ride over there. So
Yes, it is.
it's empty. So unfortunately, you're moving from Mohawk Commons over to Mansion Square, creating a vacancy over there, but hopefully,
Okay, so it's a move, not both locations.
Correct.
Is it a drop in square footage?
5,000 square feet.
Yeah, but what was the?
is it a bigger place you're moving to or smaller?
I'm not sure.
I think it's bigger.
I think it's bigger, yeah.
I think it
That would
is.
make sense.
Plus, it's probably more visible or the new location, the proposed location, right?
Yes, it is.
Versus being tucked down along the, I think it was next to the burger place, right?
Yep. And this one sits up on the knoll a little bit.
Yep. And so just for the public, so it's basically the Men's Warehouse at Mansion Square, Vision Works moving into that location is what this is about tonight.
Are we okay in the parking there, Laura?
Yeah, that was all done. I double checked that, but Men's Warehouse is considered retail. And there's, the only time that it really gets tricky is like if those were all restaurants, but retail is, I think, 175. So there's still plenty of parking
There's
there.
always an amazing amount of parking because
There is. I mean, I think where the most parking, where there's the most cars is Chipotle's because restaurants just, the cars stay there for longer.
Chipotle's
and they
gets
come
filled
back.
up.
It does get filled up, and so does Panera.
Yeah.
I mean, those end restaurants definitely take up the parking.
But the
spaces,
Chipotle
retail
side of
don't.
it does.
Yeah, it does.
But the other side of it, when it was
Doesn't have
Men's
any.
Warehouse, that would not be, there would be a lot of parking spots over
Yeah,
there.
but you know what?
Hence why they're not there.
You know, at 8 and 9 at night and certain weekdays, the Chipotle parking does go over.
It does.
Yeah.
It does start to bleed into it, but then you've got at those times you've got less retail customers.
Yeah, you have the side porch.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions regarding this?
Other than we're cannibalizing our own retail.
Sad
but
story.
it's, I mean, not of a concern to the applicant, but it's of concern to the future of retail in the United States, but nevertheless.
Okay, anything else?
Point well noted.
All right. Okay, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Mr. Scributennis?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Mr. McPartlin?
Aye.
Mr. Darpino?
Aye.
Mr. Oster?
Aye.
Chairman Walsh?
Aye, a resolution for the site plan / tenant change at 441 Balltown Road is approved.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on the agenda. We're all set with resolutions tonight. We have quite a few tonight. Appreciate everybody's patience for being out there. Discussion items. Up first, we have 2764 Troy Road, site plan application for the Niskayuna Animal Hospital. And I know we have the team here. So maybe you could just state your name for the record when you get up here and introduce everybody, and then we'll get some discussion going. How's that?
Good evening. I'm Alec Wazork with CT Mail, engineer for the applicant. We have the applicant here.
Hi, my name is Ron Schaff, and I have a residence on Kimberly Court as well as the Animal Hospital in Troy Road.
Okay, thank you.
So you've seen the proposed development 2 weeks ago. We have made some minor changes. The proposed development is on 2764 Troy Schenectady Road. Is an existing animal hospital of Niskayuna. Originally, we showed you a addition of 1,640 square feet. We've reduced that to 890 square feet, which would include 4 exam rooms with rough dimensions of 10 by 12, a hallway connecting the existing lobby to the existing hospital facility, and a new lobby of roughly 12 by 16 feet, totaling, like I said, 890 square feet, which brings the new increase of building size to around 15%. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Kevin, you want to?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you go ahead, Mr. Oster. Appreciate it.
Yeah, did you make any changes to the size of the driveway? Or any changes to the dimensions on the driveway?
We did not, because we feel that the intensity will not increase of the use of this business. We proved that we're showing here 4 roughly 16 or 18 foot long by 6.5 foot wide vehicles can fit on the existing driveway apron. If there is any sort of traffic impaction, it would not impede existing traffic on Troy Schenectady Road. And Ron has said that he's never had an issue in his 26 years of practice.
So I've heard from Laura.
A nuisance issue. I've also never heard anybody complain about the driveway. This is true.
Okay.
And there's been no complaints about dogs. I mean, we know we walked the property and there was, obviously the dogs really for the most part were inside. There was not really outside. I mean, they, I guess occasionally could have outside access, but there's been no.
Yeah, I mean, you said that you'll leave the doors open in better weather, but not so much in the winter, right? Where the dogs go in and out.
In the winter, we open the doors to let them out, close the doors, then open the doors 10 or 20 minutes later to let them back in. Nice weather, we'll keep the door open so that if they are good neighbors and don't make noise, we let them take the air. If they make noise for more than a few minutes, we bring them back in after they've done their business. That's been the case all along.
Now, this drawing still shows the additional parking spots.
This one does, yeah.
Right. I mean, but the CAC.
Yeah, the CIC was very specific. I mean, you can theoretically, they're calling out that the existing parking was 6. I think it's not even striped. You could probably actually fit more than 6 cars with the way the parking lot is right now. The CAC didn't want to see massive expansion of the parking because they felt like parking is actually limiting the use and they don't want to see an increase in use. And so if we keep the parking lot small and just servicing what the existing use of the building is, increasing the parking lot would trigger site plan approval, and then you would have a sort of better control over increasing, any additional traffic to that property.
Are there any plans on in sort of cleaning up the property? I mean, I know that when we walked it, there was the decommissioned crematorium. There was a shed that was in a little bit rough condition.
It's called an isolation kennel on here. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And there were any plans on cleaning any of that up?
The shed is not the same as the isolation.
No.
Flat roof structure.
Oh.
The rubber is an isolation facility, which in this day and age, we don't have a lot of use for, though there's not no use. So we want to be able to accommodate if there is an animal that's sick that has something that is contagious, not to put them in the same building where the other animals are. That's the flat roof building. Next to that, there's a small shed for land, for a tractor or not a tractor, but a push mower and a snow blower, which I've thought about removing, but that's not part of the entire square footage. That could be demolished or replaced, or either way, I've been told the bones are good, so I should just, fix up the walls, but it's.
One of the things we had talked about when we walked it was just in terms of trying to figure out, when you're figuring out the square footage versus the overall, what the amount of the, variance that would be, and trying to not get above the 10% was, again, we talked about it, about eliminating the possibility of eliminating. And now also we talked about the fact crematorium, obviously there's a lot of environmental issues associated with that as well too, which kind of made it a little more problematic. But I guess it was just something, whether there was other considerations for things to get below the 10%.
No, the intent was to keep all the existing buildings.
What environmental, wouldn't mind my asking?
Oh, no, it was just something that just came up. We talked about the crematorium. We talked about that square footage of it because it wasn't, I don't know if it was being used anymore or not, but it was that eliminating that theoretically would at least bring down the percentage of variance.
Please meant to say that environmental impact as a result of that building being there.
No. It was just when we talked about.
We're trying to be creative in order to minimize the request. Okay, that's the biggest concern, is that you're allowed a 10% increase in square footage for a non-conforming pre-existing use. If we could keep it there, then it makes our job a lot easier when the next person comes in and says, hey, we like to expand too. And we'd say, hey, well, Animal Hospital just did an expansion, but they kept within the guidelines. And my numbers, I guess the numbers we're looking at now, if you utilize just the 2 buildings, consider them the buildings that you have to do your calculation on, we're looking at like a 31% increase in size, even with the 890 square feet, right? Approximately 31%.
If you're just counting the.
Right. If you're counting all the buildings, it's still 15.5%. So Mr. Rosser is saying, if you count all the buildings, if you're going to have to take the crematorium down someday, If we use all the building square footage in the calculation, if you were to get rid of the crematorium, the 5 kennel, the isolation, and that shed, you pick up 721 square feet. If you do all that, you actually end up no problem with the percentage. Just makes our job a lot easier, but of course it makes it more expensive for you,
So Mr. Walsh, I was not following whether or not what you had just said, including the isolation as being credit back to the entire square footage?
Yeah, if that was the way to do the calculation, if you say all those buildings make up the site and all that square footage, if you were to eliminate things that you don't use, it'd be to your advantage because the number would drop, the square footage or the percentage that you're asking. Especially if the crematorium is, concerned because it's, looks like it's distant repair, it's old, if you're going to get rid of it anyway, it might be to your advantage to get rid of it, to take credit for the square footage is what we're talking about when we did the
In
site.
fact, just on that point, so they still have that 10% room available to them, right?
Yeah, as far as I can tell, they've never done an expansion there past 1971.
So actually, if you were to get it down to 10%, you wouldn't even need to be in front of the ZBA at all.
Yeah, so I would just caution you, I don't think it's actually calculated that way, but I think it's a huge way that we can distinguish future asks by saying, yeah, they did a 15 or 30% addition to this building, but they removed 700 square feet of non-conforming use. So you guys want to expand your thingy? We'll remove.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
that
what
I think is the advantage.
That's
of
what I
doing
was
that.
getting at.
Yeah.
So what we're concerned about is that the comprehensive plan in the Troy Road corridor favors the residential character and maintaining residential. So thought there is that, by allowing the extra percentage, right, above and beyond the 10%, which allows, we might be creating a concern with precedent with other businesses saying, hey, why'd you do it for them? Just to Mr. Khan's point earlier with our discussion, what's the basis that it was okay for them and now it's not okay for us? So we want to be really careful. Now, we want you to be successful. I know you've been there a while, and like I said, we haven't had any issues and everything. So we're trying to be creative to help you by eliminating square footage, is one thought. So if you were, depends on how you calculate. If you just use the 2 buildings at the 890, you're at 31%. So you'd only be allowed, but maybe 290 square feet addition to be within the 10%, which, isn't much, But that's the challenge here, with this board is, the being able to stand behind it and being protective for anybody else that comes in front of us in the future, and say, hey, why did we allow this? It's great that you decreased it to was 890. I mean, that was a positive note, And again, if you use the whole site, you're only at 15.5%. If you only use a 2830, 2840, you're still at 31% when you're allowed 10. So that's really for the board to decide. CAC, their recommendations, were that not to increase the intensity of use. But then when I take a look at your application for the use variance, basically every paragraph says, increase or what's the word in there?
Increase in size, yes.
Well, not increase in size. It says expansion of existing services. Every one of the hardships says expand. So that kind of contradicts what the Conservation Advisory Council was saying, that they, didn't want have an expansion. This was an addition that would allow connecting the waiting area and to the hospital area, giving you more square footage, keep you from going outside. They didn't want to see. You're talking about possibly having another veterinarian there, right? That would possibly be an increase depending on, you got 2 people, right? You got 2 veterinarians, more customers. I know you want to be successful. So it kind of contradicts itself a little bit there, So it's a tough one from the square footage.
My situation is that I just qualified for Medicare. And that means I need to start doing some succession planning, which means I need to find someone to buy the practice. Someone to buy the practice is not going to want to buy it if it's only got 2 exam rooms. And getting rid of an isolation facility would be a further not a big deterrent, but it would be a small deterrence to a potential buyer. But being a solo practice is not what's going on these days in the profession. And the problem is that I'm working 6 days a week.
Yep.
I'm working 6 days a week, so I want to bring either a half-time or even a full-time person in, so that I don't have to work 6 days a week. So bringing in another person, while yes, it could conceivably in the future allow for an expansion of
Density,
business,
yeah.
is not what's happening right now. I'm prepared to take on a half-timer, and there would not necessarily be
Hmm.
anything more, because one vet can do office calls, the other vet's doing surgeries. I'm prepared to take a full-timer on and then just cut my own hours by a similar amount
Yeah.
and be retired.
And I'm not too concerned about, by the way, I'm just pointing out that your application for a use variance states that when you go in front of the ZBA, if we get there, it's something you have to address with them, right? So, but so really our concern, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Oster, is just, the percentage, whether it's appropriate and whether or not we're setting precedent along the Shoreline Road corridor for any future applications, and that's our concern.
Right. And again, I think the board will have to answer the question, and when we make the recommendation, is it consistent with the comp plan? I think it's pretty safe to say here that it's not. But the real question ultimately is the suitability, and the suitability can take into a number of factors, including the downstream precedent, including others who have wanted to expand their property along the Troy Schenectady Road corridor. So that's why we're looking to find ways in which to avoid having to answer that question. So it was like, and so in terms of talking about ways in which to bring down the, other square footage and factoring in, so we can get above, below the 10% amount, because it does bring up tricky questions when others want to expand their businesses. And there might be differences associated with it, and each one will be looked at independently, but one of the factors will be, what have we done in the past?
So would that downstream potential be able to provide a response to your question that they were built in 1936 and they were built according to a business plan that is no longer tenable? So there are no other businesses around that could claim that kind of grandfather status. So while I understand and appreciate your concerns, they make total sense to me. I think that this business is not like any other business that is currently there or will be there. Not that that will happen. So it's just built for a different era. And I don't know that the downstream possibilities are able to argue with that kind of history behind them.
Thanks. And that's why it's on for discussion tonight, so we can kind of talk through this. So, I'd like to actually hear from the rest of the board to see what, what they think about, the 800 and was it 90 square foot proposal? Obviously it's been reduced from the original 1640. I guess I'd call it minimized in order to do what the minimum that you want to do, right? Any thoughts?
Sorry, and Dr. Scharf, like those things that you said really go to like self-created hardship and, uniqueness of property, which are more zoning board concerns, but you'd probably want to take what you just said and see how it fits into your use variance application. That kind of information is really relevant to your use variance application. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree, we should hear from other people, but the CAC it's the fourth bullet point, did feel that there was a distinguishment in the suitability, because they were directly discussing suitability at the CAC meeting, in the fact that you can't actually see this addition from the road because it's between two buildings, and the building that's fronting the road isn't changing. So they did feel like there was some distinguishment from other applications that we've seen, and that.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things that if we go forward with the proposal that we would, document or let the minutes reflect or put it in the resolution so it's clear. So we kind of, I don't say protect ourselves, but it's very clear why this was okay versus maybe somebody else that might not be okay,
I also felt that the clinic looked residential in feature as you drove past, and the addition would match the brick of the existing buildings.
Can I ask another question too about the rental property on there? I mean, I guess I can't, is that a significant part of the property?
It was a place that my family and I lived for 8 years. It's very convenient when you have patients that you're concerned about. It's 1,800 square feet. They are not on the ground level. The ground level is 2/3 used by the animal hospital. The tenants get 2-car double-bay garage and a little enclosed room.
Do you store supplies in there, as I was saying? or-
Yes, we have, well, the washer and dryer is the most essential,
Mhm.
and also prescription food takes up a lot of room as well.
Right.
And there's all the land maintenance things, the rider tractor and the snowblower. So, the business does utilize approximately 2/3 of that 1,800 square ground floor feet.
Okay, anybody else have any thoughts, how they feel about the size of the building and the submittal itself? Again, it's on for discussion. Our next meeting, which is, what's the date again? 24th, we're going to have to take action to make a recommendation. As Mr. Osser just stated, it's not with the comprehensive plan, but, so it's really for us whether or not it's suitable and whether we recommend that they grant the use variance. And again, you should update your paperwork, as Ms. Robertson was saying, to do a stronger sell on your application. Because I think it seems like it's a little weak, but that's not for me to say. It's really for the ZBA.
Mr. Chairman, could you just, I wasn't tracking your point you were making about
Square footage.
the removal of other,
Well, what I was trying to say is that if you utilize all the square footage in your calculation, right, which would be like 57, 60, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I think the planning office did it both ways. With the 890 square foot addition, you're only looking at a 15.5%, okay?
and that's inclusive of all those outbuildings?
Including everything. But if you were to start eliminating some of those buildings, like the crematorium at 410 square feet, you could drop that percentage down. So, it might get to the point where, well, it sounds like it doesn't want to get rid of the 5 kennel, the isolation kennel. So that's, it'd probably be tough to get there, but it would reduce the request, I guess.
Because he's saying you could use it as credit.
Yeah.
So if you took a crematorium down and it had 490 square feet, you could essentially apply that 490 square feet to the
That's-
new addition
Yeah.
Oh.
as a credit.
But are we using that as a part of the denominator? No, the 400 square feet is the denominator, so.
Yeah, so you can think of it two ways. I completely understand what's confusing.
That's
Like,
why I'm-
if you're removing buildings, then the total square footage goes
Yeah.
down, so the percentage would go up.
Right, that's what I'm.
But he's talking it as a credit. So if
Credit,
you
we're
have
swapping square
1,500
footage.
You're just swapping
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so you're saying,
Oh, I
okay,
see. You're
now the 490 square feet that used to be the crematorium is part of this new addition.
Oh, okay, okay.
Right, so
I was putting in the.
Right, so our resolution, if we were to agree on, like the crematorium, if the applicant said, then if you get that credit, it doesn't seem as bad for the future if somebody else comes in. Hey, they came in, but they also removed 410 scrivener feet in order to get to where they're at,
Then you're not conforming use. Yeah.
That's all. And especially if you're talking about selling the property, that crematorium is something you may have to address sooner or later,
And I think the key there is, which is also, I think it really is a credit, is because the 10% is based on how the structure existed in 1971, right? So I'm assuming all those things were there in 1971?
Yeah, although I think that if you read the code, it's attached to the building. So I think you're actually working with the 50% and the 30%. And but I do think it gives you a really good argument in the future to say, we granted a use variance to this property to allow for it to be more workable and usable because it was a model that, you just can't exist anymore. But when we did that, they also removed this amount of square footage of non-conforming use. And that was kind of like a trade.
Yeah.
If we needed to remove the crematorium, the former crematorium, that is a possibility. It's not a preferable one as far as I'm concerned, expense-wise, to remove, to demolish the building compared to just fixing up. I had already gotten estimates to patch a few holes where tree branches, limbs had come down through the roof.
I understand.
Haven't done it yet. Was thinking about doing it in the spring. But if that crematorium, the former crematorium, would be enough to make your jobs easier and be able to pass this a little more comfortably, it's a possibility. It would not be preference, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, we're just talking, just a discussion. That's why I want to see what everybody else thinks. But I would, 410 square feet would come off approximately. So I've ran it all the numbers every which way, so I don't know which is which anymore, but depends on whether you use the whole site, the 57, 60, approximately all the square footage of everything on site, and then subtract 410 from there. If you utilize that, it would probably drop it down, now 13% or something like that, which is close to the 13, 14%.
Do you use the crematorium at all?
It's used for storage of very old things.
No, but I mean as a crematorium. So.
Not currently.
And if you repaired it, it would still be just a storage unit of very old things, not not,
A potential storage.
Okay.
It would not even, I don't have any plans for it. But it would be good to have a potential, it's a solid structure and it's got a door, it's got electric. So it would be nice to have the potential, but it's not essential to the operation of the business.
whereas the isolation is essential and maybe a differentiator even to the quality of service you provide.
If I use it once or twice a year, that's a lot. In other words, I don't think I even use it on once every year. However, it's got a good furnace in it, and there's a reason for that. So it's nice to have the opportunity. You don't have nearly the infectious and contagious diseases that we had way back in the early 20th century. So it's barely used, but I had just gotten an estimate to put a new roof on that building for the sake of saving it and, having it be in good condition.
Let me try something here. I think the first thing we got to decide is what square footage are we going to utilize for doing the calculation. If it's the whole site, including the building was 57, 59, I think something like that, 57, 60 or somewhere along that line. Assuming none of the buildings come down, right? And it was everything. That would include utilizing the residence, which you keep equipment, and the laundry facility is part of the business, right? All right.
I mean, I'm comfortable using the businesses and
All of it?
The whole amount of all the
Yeah,
structures.
I guess that's a call for the planning department and legal, what that is. But if it's all of it, right? And it's only it's 890 square feet. We're looking at about 15%, 15.5%.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, Chairman Walsh, I mean, interrupt you. At the end of the day, we're making a recommendation to the ZBA.
Mhm.
Right?
And it would, if the
And
use
so we're-
variance is granted, it would come back to us for site plan.
Agreed. And so the key thing with this calculation is we're not approving anything. We're simply answering two questions, right? And so in the context of answering that suitability question, I'm comfortable using a calculation method that's all the buildings.
Yeah, which the
Also-
planning board absolutely has the right to do. Mhm.
But if we operated from the premise originally, this is where we started coming in about it was the 1640 was at 28%. And the 890 is 15%.
Yeah.
Then if you, again, I don't know if you're not committed to do the crematory, but I guess theoretically speaking, at least kind of bring it down. If it's, you swap it, then it's 480 over that. Is that then like 12% or
Yeah.
13%?
That's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
But I
back
can
way out.
understand, the crematorium, I'd like you to, if it wasn't any good, versus investing in a roof, if you were to do it on your own, that's up to you. I don't think we can make it a condition, but I guess the bottom line is if we're going to use all the square footage, is the board okay with 15.5%? I guess that's the question on the table.
As far as suitability of use goes, yeah.
That's,
I don't think we're going to get to less than 10. So this is my overall big picture. This business has been going for a long time based on infrastructure that's very old. Any business that offers a service to their clients, the clients want a way for it to continue to operate and also make it so that one person doesn't have to be the only one that's available to work. So I think we need to make some accommodation if this particular use as a veterinarian hospital is a good service to our community, which I think time has shown it is. The infrastructure is out of date and the percentage is almost irrelevant. I think the question is whether or not, and it's not good, based on what we've looked at, the visual from Route 7 is not going to change. The expansions between two buildings that I drove by many times, I identified where it was. It was where I couldn't see. So I don't think it's a math equation as much as it is suitability to the use and the longevity, and that it's not changing the aesthetic. It's not changing the lay of the land,
Not changing the nuisance.
It's not changing the nuisance.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of
Yeah,
neighbors
I think
developing around there.
I think I can get behind that too, for different reasons, but I think I get
Yeah.
behind that, especially because you reduced it to 890 or whatever it is. And then if we my suggestion is that we document the kind of things we just talked about, again, the nuisance is that you can't see from, things that the conservation advice, so that we have all our ducks in a row in case we get a future application along Troy Road, we're firm on why we were behind this one. Again, we're only going to make we'll make a recommendation to the ZBA. You still got to get through the use variance with them, and we can't speak for them. So Does that sound like a path forward? Is everybody okay with the latest submittal at 890?
I am.
Okay.
So we can update the denial to the 890, get those final numbers back, and have the recommendation for you guys at the next meeting.
Right. You understand? So she'll update the denial. We'll come back next meeting. We'll make a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals at our next meeting on whether it's consistent with this comprehensive plan, whether it's suitable for the area proposed, and what our recommendation is, whether or not they grant the use variance. We'll answer those questions and hopefully, and we'll document the basis for those at the next meeting, and then you'll be able to go to the ZBA. But it looks like we're okay with the 890.
Well, are we all? I mean, are we across the board? Are we all okay with
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I mean, I am, I just, as I said, I think the idea is being clear about the knowing full well that others want to develop along. And I know it's unfortunate that, it's also factoring on this, but it's also considering the downstream precedent. But I agree based upon some of the things you've said tonight that it's moving in a direction where you can provide some level of distinction.
I know we're at a point of clarity, and I'll apologize for bringing this back up again, but the demolition of some non-conforming square footage use does make a marked difference in anything that happens in the future.
It definitely does.
I agree with that.
Right?
And also because the condition of it is not great. I mean,
The crematorium.
Yes.
Crematorium
Yes.
specifically,
Yeah.
yeah.
It needs patching up or a new roof. It's old and it's lacking attention, but I think the structural integrity is good. Did you see something to call that?
just the hole in the roof and the hole in the roof.
Yeah, and I was just trying to be creative to try to help out,
Yeah.
because before, remember, we were looking at 1640 square feet. And I said, well, you look at the numbers, that's, it's a pretty good size, like you said, what was it, 28%?
And also, I mean, and it does back into like another, you do have like a bunch of houses that are behind you. And also, I didn't know if that would also then improve the visual behind, improve the visual. So theoretically, then we're finding some other factor in which, again, this is just the planning board. ZBA has its own considerations, but just the way in which we can then rationalize and distinguish why this recommended variance would be okay. That was kind of also part of the calculation, is the visual from those who kind of live behind the veterinary center.
And on that point, I'm not sure if Laura Robertson filled you in on the discussion that was had at our economic development committee meeting with Councilwoman McGraw on Spurzer side. I think Chairman Walsh was there as well. Dennis Brennan, her town historian, he was here. He said, I think he lives directly behind the property.
No, he lives one street over.
One street over. And so, I mean, he was saying, his kids maybe they were trespassing, went and played there. And I think that would be helpful both for the planning board and especially for the zoning board of appeals, to the extent that you could give them kind of a read on how your neighbors, perceive the animal hospital. Do they perceive it as, a nuisance? Because we don't want to make an assumption that, if you increase, traffic by one car, it's going to exacerbate the issue. And if nobody thinks it's a nuisance in the first place. So I think that would just be really helpful in terms of.
Yeah, in other words, support for the neighborhood. Do you have support for the
do you have support
neighbors?
for the
The neighbors, that's always helpful, especially for the ZBA. They will get noticed with 500 feet.
It's 500.
So they will be noticed. And that basically is the public hearing when you go for the special use permit, for the use variance. But so as far as your question about whether or not we have a consensus, I guess the only way we'll know is we have a resolution for the next meeting where we take action on, suitability, comprehensive plan. And if you feel that it's not appropriate, then you would vote no. Is that?
I think that's the right move. And
Yeah.
given all the recommendations we've made, I think.
Okay.
And we'll vote.
Yeah. How does that sound?
Great.
Okay.
I appreciate your
All
time.
right, so we're all set with we're at 890. Nothing being taken down unless you choose to do so or make a
Between now and then.
recommendation or you negotiate with the ZBA, I guess would be the other option. And then we'll make a recommendation at our next meeting. All right.
We could decide to demolish the thing before the 24th, so.
No, so thank you. Thank you for your waiting time. We had quite the agenda tonight. I appreciate it. All right. Okay, we're gonna give one of those easy buttons. That's easy. Let's see, all right, so, okay, so 2538 River Road, special use permit, major subdivision for Kelts Farm, and we have the applicant here and a representative of the applicant. So maybe you can introduce yourself. This is the first time the board has discussed this one. We did receive an updated or colored map tonight, and we got it in our packet, so all yours.
Good evening, Nick Costa from Advanced Engineering and Surveying.
Joel by Salon Properties.
And we're here tonight to present the proposed development of the 16-acre parcel located on River Road that was formerly owned by Kelts. And this is a vacant piece of parcel that borders the residential subdivision, and it actually has frontage on Windsor Drive. Up towards the top of the page on the west side, there's Windsor Drive. And it's zone A1, or R1, I'm sorry. And there are municipal services, including water, sanitary sewer, that can be extended to serve the proposed subdivision. There is, the topography of the site is generally from the west towards River Road. And there's two drainage ways that divide the site. One is towards the northerly portion of the site where the two residential homes are located. And the second one is pretty much through the middle of the site of the loop road that we're proposing. There are wetlands on the site that have been delineated, and we've also delineated a 25-foot setback from those wetlands. So the site is probably, as everybody knows, is right across from the Jeff Blatnick Park. And there is a path, bike path, that runs parallel to River Road that is has pretty good use. There's quite a bit of pedestrian and bike and runners.
Excuse me, I don't know, something wrong with that microphone, or is that maybe move back a little bit?
You want to just pull it away?
I just want to make sure, because
I'm sorry. I didn't even see the other one. Is that better?
yeah,
Is your phone up there? Oh, that's better.
That's better?
Yeah. Nope.
just keep your hand there. No.
No, I don't have a phone. I leave it out in the car. It must be that plate in my head.
Tune in the ball game, would you? All right.
So what Joel is proposing is to subdivide the site into 9 twin townhomes and 6 single-family residential lots. The single-family residential lots are mostly located along River Road. And they're the 2 on the northerly portion of the site. And there's another 3 along the frontage with River Road. And then there's one that's towards after the first twin townhome after the first driveway. The water.
Yeah, sometimes, Laura, that connection, sometimes it gets, we have to jiggle it before the. Yeah, we need to get it resoldered, I think, or something.
Is that better? Nope. No, still has a.
I tell you what,
Change
can
the angle.
can we swap microphones? That's one way of handling it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that way we can,
It's not even going to come through very well on
yeah, it'll, because we're, I was going to say taping, but I
Is
guess
that better? Is that better? Yeah. Okay. So what we were proposing is a loop road from River Road, and it's shown on the drawing. And utilities, as I was saying, there's a water main on the east side of River Road that we would connect to and loop around the proposed road so that.
Microphone.
Oh,
Yeah, no problems tonight, huh?
Is that better? No? New batteries? Can you hear me? Testing?
Yeah.
That's better.
Yep.
Okay.
And she's just going to check to make sure. Go ahead, and she'll check, make sure we're getting recorded.
Okay, so. So as I was saying, the water. You had it.
No, he keeps turning off on him.
The water would be from River Road and looped around. And the individual services, water services would be extended to the proposed homes. Sanitary sewer, the town has a large collector, sanitary sewer collector system.
We're going to change the batteries there. While she's doing that, I'll just interject. So basically, this is the first time we see it. So please, we're going to need a project lead because this is a pretty good project because it's going to be an average density development as the proposal. All right. So one of the first things we got to do after we hear about the details is we have to agree on what it would be like if it was built out as R1. How many lots could we get in there? Because that's going to be the basis for the average density development, right? Because you can only have equivalent to the number that you could build out, not just draw lines and say, hey, here's what I got. You have to be buildable lots, right, with the wetlands and everything. And then we have to have the correct number of single-family or detached homes. I believe that's 40%. So something we're going to have to talk about. That's to get this started, right? Okay, so I'm sorry. I was just trying to buy some time. Yeah, you're going to have to stand up. Yes, please. Thank you.
We did do the 24 R1 layout, and we submitted that to Laura. And so we didn't submit it with a package, but we did.
Is this it?
Yeah, the new one that we got tonight.
That's what
in your
you're saying.
Okay.
So essentially, the average density development code requires that a single-family home subdivision is submitted prior to calculating how many lots you get. And I put the code right in there. I think the only issue is that they have to be conforming lots, and 3 of the lots that are in this R1 kind of normal single-family home R1 are flag lots and require area variances.
Right.
And there may be a way to like massage the lines so that you don't need that. I'm not sure.
It's on. Okay, but one thing I want the town to know, okay, is that.
Joel, hold it really close to your mouth.
Oh, boy.
There we go.
The existing sewer line right here comes down Windsor, goes across the town property. Then there's a 25-foot easement across my property. And then it crosses here and across the road here, okay? So this is a 15-inch line that drains essentially this whole area here, all right? This line is a clay tile line, very old. The roots are all infested in it. You all know the problem that we had back in prior to like 2014 with the DEC moratorium, all right, from water infiltration. And this is a major problem here. And what had happened with this line is that the roots it was so root bound that it actually overflowed and flowed raw sewage across our property, all right? So this line has to be rebuilt. So it's a 15-inch line, 8 foot down, huge expense, right? So what we're gonna do is come down Windsor here across our property, give you a new easement, all right? And attach it right here to Blatnick. So the line goes like this now, like this, like this, like this, and like this, all right? So, the town wants a nice, smooth flow with PVC pipe, not root-bound pipe, all right? So there has to be a little give and take here, all right? So I'm not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix the town line.
That's what we're here for tonight, to have this discussion.
Well,
right?
that's I want people to know that background, okay?
Yep, well, on the, if you were to do that, the old sewer line, would that easement be reverted back to the property? Would that be abandoned, or would it be?
Yes, it'd be abandoned. So what we have to do is we have to cap it here, we have to flush it, and then cap it here on.
So it'd be
along
abandoned
river.
in place and the easement would be diminished too?
Yes. Or, I don't care if it stays there.
All
I
right.
mean, it doesn't matter because
Doesn't impact you?
I thought we were going to give this town, the land to the town, but Laura said she'd rather see it with the HOA. So, you know, if the town took this land, then, you know, the easement could stay.
Right.
But that's TBD.
So you said there was 24? Okay, I counted 25, so I'm sure.
No, there's 24. There's 9 duplexes and 6 single family.
Again, I'm not there's no duplexes shown on the R1, so which?
On the R1.
Yeah.
R1 is, yeah,
Okay, where's the, looks like one is not, I count 25, so one of them is not going to be built on. Would that be lot
Well,
number 10?
what we did when we did the 25 is this stormwater management area,
Yeah.
we counted that as a lot. But since then, we took it off because
Okay,
we're extending this town walkway, and this makes the town very walkable. So this connects up right here to Town Hall, all right? And then we come across here, and we're gonna take the bike path, see where the bike path crosses here now?
Moving the crossing.
Okay, we're gonna build a new bike path here, put a new crosswalk across river, and then take the old bike path out here. And then the people have a nice grassy knoll here to sit on and watch baseball games.
Yep. Walkability is great.
yeah. But to Ms. Robertson's point, though, you know, we have to start with, if you came in for the R1, we'd have to give you sketch plan approval. That sketch plan approval would be the basis for the average density development, right? That's the bottom line, by code.
Yep. I mean, yeah, that's
By
what the
code.
code says.
That's what the code says, you know? So as far as the give and take, whether you're going to do us a favor and whether or not we can, I guess I would have to defer to the planning and legal department on that. But if you look at the comprehensive plan, yes, you know, the connection from Windsor, especially a hike, bike, pedestrian connection is in the comprehensive, that's great, right? But if you also look at the comprehensive plans, it discourages non-uniform lots and it discourages flag lots, which you have both on your 24 lot R1, okay? So we really need to make sure that the basis for the average density development is agreed upon up front. That's what we got to do.
Chairman, can you point out where the flag lots
The
are?
flag lots, if you're looking at you're looking at the wrong one. You got to look at, you got to look at this one.
All right,
Came with the
I
packet.
saw that earlier.
That's the R1. So it looks like flag lots or keyhole lots are lots 3, 6, and 15.
So in other
Three of
words,
them.
if you eliminate those flag lots.
No, well, I'm not saying to eliminate
I know.
it. Well, yes, you can eliminate
Map.
change the geometry to not make them flat if you can, and then you can still get credit for those in the average density development.
Right.
Right? I'm not so hard bent on like if they're not perfectly rectangular lots because it's a tough site and everything. So, you know, we can give and take there, but, you know, the flag lots are in comprehensive plan. This comes in front of us all the time and we have problems with flag lots, you know. But again, so it depends on, again, legal and planning, what we
Yeah.
can utilize in our decision to maximize the number of lots so you can, you know, have a good investment here.
Back to the proposed buildings with the duplexes. So these will be the first set of duplexes on River Road, right?
Probably.
On River Road.
And to confirm, these would be actual condos or townhouses, not apartments. But not apartments. They're ownership. Oh, okay. All right.
They're individual lots.
Okay.
They'll be individually owned.
What's the matter, Laura?
I mean, Clark changed the batteries before the meeting started, and I think that entire box of batteries is.
That's a
Let me just give
that's,
this a
that's
different.
a that's a low probability occurrence.
Yeah, it's frustrating. So while she's checking on things, so say there's 24, all right, and you can get 24 out of it. But you also have the other bogey where you have to have 40% of detached housing or one. So 24, 40% is 9.6 or 10 homes, right? And you're only showing 6 single family homes.
I'd rather have more single.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to defer to the code enforcement and to Laura on that one also.
60 or 40 for attached?
For the detached. It's 40%.
60 max for attached.
It's 60 max
For attached.
It's 40 max for, that's the wrong way
Is-
to do it, sorry. No, batteries.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe we should just plug that one back in.
yeah, let's plug it back
So,
in.
so the code says actually the maximum is 40% detached.
Maximum, okay,
Minimum, sorry, 40% detached minimum.
minimum.
So you,
That's like-
so it's close, but it's not quite, right?
Right.
Thanks.
Minimum
So 40%
detached.
single family.
Yes. Mhm. And then the rest
Please,
are
please stand up
attached.
there, okay? So we gotta, remember.
So
we're
that's
being-
9.6?
Yeah, so 10 homes.
10 homes. We can make it 10 homes easily.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you absolutely can.
But that's what we got to discuss tonight, whether, what do we want to see there and then try to, abide by what the code says, right?
So can I ask for my clarification, Laura? The code allows for kind of a mixed tenure, detached and townhomes in a single development.
That's correct. That's the average density development. I mean, a lot of towns can call them or conservation subdivisions. So essentially you're clustering the homes on smaller lots to allow for greater open space. That's the intent.
Yeah.
You can call it average density development. You can call it conservation subdivision. I mean, there's definitely planning elements to it that make a lot of sense. And in some ways, smaller, the CAC was just preliminary looking at this one, smaller yards, more open space, less maintenance on the yards. I mean, that you're getting
Park
then
across the street.
to townhomes where people can downsize and stay living in Niskayuna.
I just think as a matter of point, it's unusual to have kind of a mixture of kind of types and tenures. They have single family detached within a townhome project, but that's just
So
from a design perspective and kind of a marketability. It seems a little.
Yeah, and all the single families are basically along the road, right?
Except for one.
No, except for one, which is lot 16, which is.
Yeah, so and the one in your packet shows all the single family homes along the road, I think. You swapped them. You flipped
Oh,
them.
okay, well,
I have 6 single-family home customers already that need eastern facing, so.
it's that connection.
Weird.
Just leave it there.
I do
Leave it up
not
there.
Haven't
Leave it up there. And just talk to us.
So I think we're just listing out all the topics, right? And so, River Road's become a busier and busier road. And so right now with the 2 houses up on the western side, you're actually creating, let's leave the bike path off for a second, but now there's actually 4 new entry points off of River Road. That section of River Road is quite busy. It's a little bit of a run. So one of the thoughts might be, is there a way to reduce,
Curb cuts?
yeah, maybe to 2?
Here's what I was thinking is, I was gonna go to Joe Landry tomorrow and seek a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit for that section.
Mhm.
There is more houses. I mean, that's, Niskayuna is a residential community, not a speedway.
So I mean, that could be part of the equation. As somebody who travels that road every day, I kind of like that. Right there, it's 45, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah, it drops to
45
40 right up the road, yeah. Yeah, so when I was quoting how many, I was looking at the previous one that we had.
If you look at the walkability of the community, okay, is that we have a splash pad across the street. We got a Blatnick Park. They're tearing down the town garage. They're gonna put volleyball courts back in.
Yeah, and
It's
so
a major recreation area. You got kids watching baseball games. Okay, we got a continued path, a bike path.
yeah, so Joe, all
And
that's
then you
good.
got
So
people
what I
going
was
by
thinking,
45 miles an hour.
Is there a way to put a major roadway connecting Windsor and a single exit point?
You want to do that?
Do you want to do that?
No, I don't. I mean, Ed Riley wanted to do that back in 1996, and it was huge public
Well, let's
outcry, huge outcry.
let's just talk about that because none of us were here in '96. But
Yeah.
just theoretically, just exercising the thought process, what would be the reason why you would not, why
One of
you
the big
now would
reasons
not want
when-
to?
When they put in Windsor Drive, the town dumped a 24-inch water main there that made this wetlands. This wetlands traditionally was never there. I mean, we have the maps from 1948 and, and the only waterway was here. This wasn't here.
Right.
This was a farm, a flower farm for 40 years, right? And when the town put this 24-inch main here that drains Briar Ridge here, Windsor, this retention pond
Mhm.
comes across this person's property.
Mhm.
So you can't continue that road through here. And that's the.
Because it's a wetland.
wetland.
That's the answer.
It's a large
The
wetland.
town had in 1996, and that was on Ed Riley's political platform that he wanted to connect that through.
Yeah.
And there was a huge,
So
people
does
that
that
were here, there
wetland
was a
covered by
huge
Army
out-
Corps if it was something that wasn't there in
It
48?
is.
Says
It's
it's federal.
regulated, yeah. The Army Corps doesn't actually necessarily care.
They doesn't care when it got created?
Believe me, they don't care.
Occasionally, but it's very rare. I mean, we've seen it a couple times. Like, actually, Rivers Ledge made the argument that the railroad bed is the reason that all of the water was pooling behind, the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail, because the railroad just put a giant berm there to make it flat, and then there was nowhere for the water to go. That was draining off of, the E1 hill, if we want to call it E1 hill.
Yep.
I mean, it certainly happens. And, the Tiberio said all of these wetlands were created when they were doing mushroom farming. Well, Nick knows that one, and they're regulated as well.
So, like I said, we're just putting the list together of things, right? So that's just a thought. You could get, to some extent, 2 well-secluded neighborhoods with a single road going through them, 1 curb cut on River Road.
Or how about Windsor Drive headed a little more to the east, sort of near the intersection of the ball field?
Yeah, it could cut out anywhere. All I'm saying is I'm trying to get down, is it possible to get down to a single curb cut on River Road? That's all.
A
That's all.
single curb cut?
Yeah.
It might increase the traffic there even more though.
Yeah, I think that was also, I would think that it'd be creating a little bit of a speedway then for people going, kind of go River Road to the town center.
Yeah.
If you went straight through, at least right now, it like when you kind of like take the left at Briar, it kind of is a little bit of a calming aspect of it. I even think that was an issue when ultimately they extended out Windsor, that there was concern about speeding along that road.
Yeah, I understand Mr. Khan's questioning, because I wanted to explore this and just fully understand it. That's really the reason why we're doing it. But I think if we did have a road through there, the amount of vehicles coming in and out onto River Road would increase beyond the number of properties that are there. So I
that's
I think
possible.
keeping it
Yeah.
finite might actually be better.
Yeah, and no matter what way, right, whether there's the 2 points here or if it came through, we're still going to have to do the analysis for where it exits onto River Road, sight line distances, which is, part of the engineering that has to happen.
It's been done.
It's been done.
Yeah, the ones we resubmitted, there's site distances shown. It's the first driveway, looking left and looking right. Looking left is, I think, 700 feet.
But
767
does it,
and
let's put it this way,
1,000.
does it meet the requirements of a 45-mile-an-hour road? Do you have the correct site distances at both locations?
I think the northerly driveway looking left is deficient.
Yeah, 415.
Right, the 415 is short from the recommended distance.
Okay. And to correct that, I'm going to petition the county to change the speed
No,
of the
there could
road?
be, we could say no left-hand turn off that drive. I mean, we could say this site distance is 415 feet here at 45 miles an hour. So we could say no left-hand turn coming out this, or really
Well-
radical, we could say the loop is one way.
Yeah.
Right, we could read this, we just received those distances.
Yeah.
The surveyor just.
We're just talking here, right?
Right,
There's the things that are going to come up there and review.
So, depending on what we need to do at that driveway, at the northerly driveway, we could either put a small island, just like you see the DOT requires in driveways along, Route 7, where you can only do right-ins and right-outs. Or we could limit it to just one-way traffic. We could go in and narrow it down to just going in.
Okay.
But we can't, if we try to move that driveway, it's not going to get any better. It actually gets worse. So that's probably the best we can do.
Okay. So I'll just give my opinion. So far, I'll open to the board as usual. In general, I'm okay with this. I think, but we need to decide on how many lots you could have that would be compliant with the R1 zoning district and with the comprehensive plan. And I hate to be like that. I know you're talking about, hey, you're going to do us a favor. We need to understand that in order to to make a decision on the
Yeah, I'm
average
in
density
favor.
development. So you need to take a look at that and kind of play around with those lots. I know you want to maximize them. We all understand that, and let's see, where it falls.
I would just as soon drop off those 3 lots and say, I can only get 21 lots, and then not do the 15-inch sewer extension.
Yeah.
I mean, then we could put a sewer connection right here, right to the line coming down River
Yeah.
Road. We're done.
Yeah, I understand. That's something we,
But then the town's line's gonna back up onto our property again.
But yeah, I mean, and we talked about this, Joel. I completely understand that it's frustrating. Nothing in Niskuna is easy anymore. But if you're connecting into that line, it's tied into all of the sewage just coming
This is
from
my
the Balltown
6th
North
subdivision in
Pump
this
Station.
unit, and none of them have ever been easy.
Well, because they're done right. And I mean, I think that you can get, if you look at this configuration, you have some frontage on River Road that you're not using. I think you can reconfigure this and probably get it to 23. I don't know if you can get it all the way to 24. Possibly. It's very close. I think it helps that you're not actually doing 25.
Yeah,
You can
but I think-
definitely get it to
Yeah, I
23.
think the point Chairman Walsh was making is we need to have a starting point to know what the value is of calling a flag lot really a flag lot or calling it something else based on everything you said, right?
yeah, that's the bottom line.
I don't know where my starting point is.
Yeah,
That's
I'm just
all.
reading the
seeing if
code.
it
That's what the
first-
code
My
says.
my
That's all.
starting point, though, is that you get an average density development that's walkable. You have this woods buffer, okay? You get the path, you get the 15-inch sewer line. If you want me to back up, we'll back up.
So I
you know?
understand what you said, right?
I mean, we'll back up.
No.
I don't know if we're there yet. We're
Yeah, we're
just
not
asking,
there yet.
we're not there at
Yeah,
backing up's not.
What's the walkability road? So is there going to be any kind of connection to
Yeah.
Windsor?
Yeah.
He's going to.
Path, pedestrian path.
Yeah.
Could you go over that one more time? Because I don't see
This
it on
is
the.
a- This is a 10-foot path,
Mhm.
okay? So you can come from Town Hall right here,
Mhm.
go down Windsor, go across our path,
That's shown right.
across our road,
Yeah, okay.
and we're gonna put a new bike path in here.
Yep, right
Okay,
across
I got it.
river.
Take out this section of bike path and put a crosswalk in.
Yep, which makes a tremendous improvement to a variety of residents around the area to get to a very heavily
The
destined.
CAC loved this.
Yeah, I did too.
They were just worried that this raised portion of pathway would fall into disuse,
Yeah.
or, like, we put in the interpretive walkway across from the town hall when we mitigated the wetlands in Oakmont, right? And that's kind of fallen into disrepair now, all right? But what I was just talking about, Nick, earlier, is that maybe we could swap out this wetlands, make this path hard, and put the wetlands here, expand this wetlands. But that's fine, and I want to get building, but we can look at that. But that's the walkability, is that,
Yeah, that's great. That's going to be great for the park.
Residents.
That and with the conservation of that area, we don't need any parkland since the park's across the street. You still have to pay parkland payment in lieu of parkland for each unit, I guess it would be. So, it's all good, it's just a matter of,
I never wanted to connect Windsor to River. I mean, my original concept was just to loop it around like this and come back.
yeah.
But that was kind of hard too. But Nick came up with this plan, which I think is beautiful,
So our lots for the R1 is 18,000 square feet. Some of these lots you're showing 20, my eyes, it's need magnifying, 27,000. So some of them are, exceed. So if you were to make those, try to get them down to the minimum and minimize the key lots, you might be okay. I'm not sure. That's just a matter of playing around with the lots. And then again, the code says whatever you could build with R1, and I guess, legal or planning office can correct me. If we have the flexibility, say, the flag lots are okay, even though we wouldn't allow them, then, we could take that into our consideration, but I just want to follow the code.
We
That's all.
don't.
Just want to follow the code,
But I think, Joel, if you look at the way that it's drawn, and Nick can look at this, there's clearly, you can redraw the lines. You're easily at 23.
Yeah, you're not going to
You
build the
very
R1, you're just drawing
easily
lines.
could potentially make it to 24. I'm just trying to figure it out. And you've got 24 laid out. So you just got to make sure that you're meeting the code. And then to Kevin's point, I mean, and Mr. Scrivicius, I mean, I myself really think that the town could use twin townhomes more than it could use single-family homes.
Oh, I prefer the townhomes.
So I prefer the townhomes as well. If you got to add
It's the
another
mix.
4 single-family homes in there, it's, I think, a little unfortunate. But looking at the code, I think it ends up being an area variance if you don't.
Oh, if
single-family
the
homes.
area variance would be because of, he's showing what, 6 single family?
And you would need 9.
Yeah, you need 9 point something, which is 10.
We could easily go to 10.
Yeah, I know. I just think that's actually unfortunate. I think it's better to
I
have
got 9 sold.
Yeah, so I'm just, because I want to follow the regulation,
And then-
that's all.
but then
We want
Mr.
to work with you.
So Mr. Scrivicius' point is like, maybe figure out a way that the mix makes sense. And yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that we've seen like twin townhomes and then a single family home and then twin townhomes. I mean, maybe put all the single family homes.
Can I ask a question that may have been covered? It kind of relates to that. If the easement was done away with for the existing clay 15-inch, is that land not developable?
Well, no, it's developable. It's just that we chose that it was easier for us to keep that as the open space, as part of the open space. Because then, we minimize the amount of roadway that's necessary
Mhm, yeah.
and the length of the driveways, so
Yep.
this is a nice compact, development. And as Laura mentioned, when you're looking at conservation subdivision, that's what you want to do. You want to reduce the amount of infrastructure.
Yeah, it's got to be, right.
Right.
I was just asking it along the line
Right.
of the ratio.
And this is zoned R1, so you can reduce it up to 50%, which is 9,000 square foot lots, and that's what the plan
If
is.
you look at the 24 lots that we have here, if you extended these lot lines back
Yep.
on every single one of these, okay, you'd have easily 18,000 square foot, all right? But then you wouldn't have the buffer to
Right.
the neighbors.
Right.
You wouldn't have the smaller lots, the CAC wants for less fertilizer on the lawn.
Very nice.
Right.
And,
Prior to the loop, what was the idea?
pardon?
The loop, Nick put in, what was the idea?
No
Coming
access from
down
River Road.
And doing
Just a loop.
Just,
I-
okay, a loop
I
on,
never wanted to connect from Windsor to River.
Right.
I got a lot of friends in Windsor and they hate me.
So you were thinking all access via Windsor prior, now it's all access via River Road.
I mean, like I said, I was there for the fight in '96, with Ed, and Ange and company, but I really don't think anybody wants to do that.
Probably not. But the thing is again, the bike path for, people, all ages will utilize it to get to the park.
Yeah.
And
One path is great.
it's great.
I mean, if you direct connected, River Road with Balltown Road through Knott Street, I can't imagine the traffic increase.
Right.
I mean, it'd
Right.
just be
It would
horrendous.
change the vibe of the neighborhoods.
Every one of these McMansions here, those people.
All right, let's stick to, so the bottom line is you got to take this back and see if you can redraw it to minimize the flag lots, whatever, and where you land. We got to start there, okay? Right? And then, I'll just speak for myself. I don't know about the second proposal, the one you dropped off tonight with the one single family home dumped in there amongst the townhomes. The one that submitted before had just the single family homes just along
The
river.
reason why we did that is there's pocket wetlands right here. See this pocket wetland?
Yeah, so you can't get,
But it's orphaned. It's an orphaned home.
yeah.
Literally.
Well, but you know what? You need a couple more single family homes. So maybe like lot 17 and 18 would be single family. And then it's a little more consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do that.
Yeah, so that's all. So we just got to come to some kind of compromise, but we got to start with drawing the lines and making sure we know where we're
yeah,
at.
so I can understand about not connecting Windsor to River Road, let's leave it that way. But I think between the 4 cuts that are gonna be there in River Road now, is there any way to get it down? So the loop looks nice and symmetric and good, but it does cause 2 cuts on River Road. So
What's
is there
the concern with cuts on River Road?
Well,
the fact that it's
We
a
have
busy
that as
road
sightline
and,
distance.
yeah.
We have that at Parkville,
Well, I
now,
think-
too.
Yeah.
I think the one-way suggestion might be the solution because,
I mean, even
Yeah.
just some small things. The eastern side of the loop, right where the bike paths cross, that's not going to work. That's super dangerous. Where you put the new bike paths crossing, right there, the turning, right?
Because
No,
they're
that's
turning.
Yeah, because people are gonna be turning.
People will be slowing.
No,
down.
that's definitely a much safer place to put the
you wanna be able to
crosswalk.
see,
Much
right?
safer.
Yeah.
You think
'Cause-
so?
Oh, yeah, because like right now, the crosswalk is mid-block and it's at an
It's a
angle.
diagonal, it's at a.
So you definitely want, if
I
anytime you can, you're
understand the
gonna land that
straightness.
up
I'm
there.
just talking about
Nope.
it's another activity at that intersection now.
Yes.
You definitely want to put a crosswalk where there's if you can, line it up with the street.
move that anywhere you want.
No, you don't want to move it away from the road.
I'll defer to you on that one.
Well, right now, it's literally like in the middle of the, it's like in the middle of the road, like.
No,
people are
I
speeding,
yeah,
It's, yeah,
No, no,
yeah.
once we design, it will be
Yeah.
shifted a little bit from the radius. Because right now, you're correct.
Yeah.
Right now, it's right at almost at the point of curve. You know, so it's gonna have to move to the.
Yeah, I mean, you've got drivers there keeping track of now people and cars.
Yeah, but, well, that's.
It's way safer than a mid-block, though. You definitely want to align crosswalks with side streets whenever you can. And the Complete Streets did look at that. That's their recommendation to put it there as well.
Right. I mean, I can see that.
But it will be, to your point, it will be shifted a little bit.
No, yeah, my point is actually, I think it's actually a little dangerous right now. I think it's like literally you have speeding cars and all of a sudden you've got to come to like,
Yeah, they don't dare try to cross there.
Oh,
You know,
I mean, I do.
it's danger.
Yeah, a lot, but you know.
All right.
Dangerous.
But if you're like going from like Rosendale Estates at like on your bike out to like the bike path, like that's where you cross. Yeah.
So here's what I heard. Let me just, so we need to update the R1 sketch plan.
convention.
That's something that makes something that we would approve so that we know how to base the average density development on, because we wouldn't approve all those flag lots like that. That I can speak for myself. You know, we have trouble with those, and that's what the comp plan discourages them. So it's against the comprehensive plan. We have that, and then we can go forward with the development, because we'll know for sure how many units you're allowed. And hopefully, for your case, it comes out about the same because you're able to move the lots. Me personally, I'm okay with the townhome / single family mix. I don't particularly care for the one that's stuck in there. To Laura's point, if we had, and to Mr. Scributin's point, either the previous submittal had them all along the road, but let's group them together so it makes sense, right? I don't know, from a sales standpoint, you got a single family home between two houses, maybe it would sell, but it just doesn't look right to me. All right.
Okay.
And then we got the issue with the site distance on the, I guess that would be is it north?
The north, yeah.
The north?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of the road bend in that road there. It's kind of confusing, but so we either got, we got to think about whether it's a one-way or no left-hand turns out and what makes sense. So I'll let you think about that, but we're going to have to do that unless, the county comes in and says, we're putting up 30-mile-an-hour signs along the road. And I don't think that's going to happen personally. Not time to support this project. All right, or ever, so can't speak for them. It's out of our control. All right. And then we'll take it the next step. And I think we can get there. We also need a project lead because it sounds like when we get the submittal for the R1 update, we're going to need somebody to take a look at, possibly meet with the applicant, meet with Joel, maybe not Mr. Costa, but Joel, at least to make sure we get a common point so we can get started on that. Right? Am I missing something else?
I think that sounds good.
Yeah.
Good summary.
I have a question. The only reason Windsor's not connected is because it passes through a wetland?
No,
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 that's
just-
not the only
okay.
reason.
I think the concern.
I think that was the point about the traffic
Right.
impact was.
I think it's traffic and the
yeah.
public doesn't want it.
Especially if it hasn't been there for all these years and all of a sudden you got a highway coming through.
I mean, you had cameras here for the Holocaust Memorial. If we ever propose putting that road through, forget about it.
Forget about it. No, but I don't want to say that, forget about it, because.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I think we're making a lot of mistakes that neighboring communities make by creating these, streets that
Unorthodox.
they're just inclusive to themselves. I mean,
Niskayuna.
do you really think that a ton of traffic would cut through there?
That's
I
fine.
think some would.
We'll take
but-
that risk. Thanks very much. We'll take that risk.
Yeah.
But I don't think that should be completely dismissed at this point.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because I view it the same. I don't think it should be. I know what I actually don't know what the past history is. I'm going from what you're saying, right? But Waldorf was here in '96, but wasn't paying attention.
I mean, maybe if it cut straight through, I could see if that was what the original plan was. But now you're coming down, you're bending it off another road. The bike path's a great idea. I think connecting that to what you got across the street you're checking every box. But to maybe give it just a little bit more research on the road and what you're connecting into, this is going to go through a couple more iterations. There may be a good solution there. I wouldn't discount it yet.
And we will take a look at it. We'll take a hard look at it. But to your point, what was the number one reason? It's a multiple number of reasons. And the wetland impact is another one.
Yeah.
We would have wetland impact.
Right.
And I do want to say something, and, so this is just, I haven't thought about the statement too deeply, other than maybe providing another way to that Knott Street, Balltown Road intersection that's more speed control. You see, the people who live on Windsor already, most of the stuff they'd be unhappy with has already happened, right? You just go there at, 7:20 in the morning when school's about 40 minutes away from start, right? That's, they see a significant amount of traffic, right? And so holding that thought for a second, this could provide some alleviation for the traffic we see in Balltown. And at that Balltown Knott intersection for everyone coming this way to get to River Road. And if you speed regulate it, et cetera, right? It's not necessarily a completely detrimental thing. Because right now, Balltown, the way it is pretty detrimental, right? It gets very backed up, very, intense traffic usage. It's just a thought, right? We don't know the details. This is first discussion on this.
It's just good comments. Did you sketch out that flipping it over? Basically, you're flipping it over so that you'd come in from Windsor and go around, and the back of the homes, I guess, would be on a River Road there. Did you look at that at all?
Yeah, we did, but again,
Is it wetlands?
It has a major impact to that wetland.
Yeah, now that's federal, so you would have to get permission. You'd have to mitigate either on-site or off-site, create some wetlands somewhere else in town kind of thing.
If they would, if they would even give us the.
But you do have space to mitigate on site, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Have you
But-
talked to Matt Yetto or Josh Hawley yet about
Pardon?
this? Have you talked to the superintendent of water and sewer?
Yeah.
Matt Yetto?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think we discussed this briefly in committee and then afterwards, and I know he expressed strong views that the reason that the walking path was made wide was in recognition that this cut through street wouldn't be possible, so it would have to just be a continuation of a path. So, his expertise obviously is going to be what we defer to, so.
Yeah, and like Joel mentioned, that's not just a wetland, it acts like a stormwater management area, because there's a 24-inch pipe that discharges into this land at the end of Windsor.
Yeah.
So, that the displacement of, not only do you have displacement of the wetlands, impact to the wetlands, you're also displacing a basin that's being created there. Nobody built it, but it's been created there because of the shape of the land and because of the stormwater that's being discharged there.
But just so I get you comment correctly, though, is what you were proposing is to bend Windsor to the east to skirt the wetlands, and then to put a cul-de-sac here and a cul-de-sac here.
No.
It
No.
won't make
That's
sense.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, flip it around so that you come in and you go around and back out Windsor. There's no,
Yeah.
there's no,
You talk about the loop.
Yeah.
no ingress or egress onto River Road. Is that what?
I disagree with that. You're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
I thought you wanted to connect the road.
No,
What I would do, Windsor would come down and it would connect more towards the north.
right.
Skirt the wetlands to the north.
We don't.
Connect into the existing loop,
Correct.
you're saying,
And
right?
connect
So
into your new-
keep the existing loop and just bring
We-
Windsor down.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
another
There
option.
you go.
We don't have we only have 50-foot of right of way at the end of the road. So making a turn, a sharp turn, unless we create an angle point, you can't do a curve, a radius.
It'd have to be a right turn
Yeah.
or a left turn coming
Could be.
from Windsor.
All we have is this space right here to do it. So you're saying about coming across here? So the geometry of that would take you outside of the control of our lane. There would be.
That's town land.
So
Right.
if we can get some If we can get this unit, that's possible.
But you're saying you would cut out, what was, you wouldn't have the four, no, you would eliminate one cut onto River Road.
He's saying, make a turn here like this and come down.
Well, whatever the configuration is, whether you could even keep this new loop Horseshoe Road, call it Horseshoe Road, but to connect it up to Windsor, I think is a missed opportunity. Along with, if you have a parallel with a multi-use path, something like that, I think would be beneficial, because now you're getting not just one mode of, whether it's a bike or walking over, people could drive through there, which is what streets are for, and they could get into Blatnick Park and park there. Now somebody's getting a little bit more traffic through their neighborhood, but
And
I think
you're putting less traffic onto River Road.
correct.
Right.
And so there's times when there's high volumes, whether it be via Balltown or River Road, those numbers would get dispersed through. Adjacent communities near us have this terrible problem where you drive through and all of their developments dump onto a feeder road. There's no secondary access. There's no other way to skirt your way through town. And even though this is a minor development, you have an opportunity here to connect something very close to the town center and can significantly increase the access to Blatnick Park. So even with what you're doing with the bike path on that side, and I mean, we should even talk about what the fees would have to be for the recreation fees you have here. I mean, there should be some sort of credit. There's a huge park right across the street.
Yeah, we talked about payment.
I mean, what we like to see.
Yeah, I mean, we can work with stuff like that.
Sure. And usually what we see is we get some of these developments, we like to see a pocket park in there. Or there's land that's set aside, which becomes an amenity for the sale of the properties. Here, I think you got a great buffer between a fantastic park and the town center right there. You could walk, bike, drive, everything.
And also to support your point, the comprehensive plan promotes interconnectivity.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, but we would have to talk to the town about maybe utilizing some of that land.
Sure.
So that's, we treated it as to what we control. And that's how we laid it out. So if that's a possibility, I think we can take a look at that.
Okay, so again, it sounds like got some different thoughts here. You're going to lay out some sketches, right? At a minimum, you're going to start with the R1 and see if we get something that we would approve, right? Again, if we have the variance opportunity or for not the 10 homes, okay, that's something that's within our power, that's great. But you also heard about, sightline distance concerns and whether or not, the connection should be made to Windsor. And, but one of the things I want to, I guess, I don't know if it's caution or mention, is that for an average density development, the town board has to approve it. This goes to the town board.
This is a special use permit.
Yeah, so, town board's got to be on board with it too. We're going to be making a recommendation to town board and they need to be on board with it. It's the bottom line.
Which is fair. I mean, this is a pretty big decision in the town.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, no, it's
probably
fair.
the right
I ain't saying
place
it's not
to
fair.
go.
I'm just saying. So we could talk all we want and we could say, put the Windsor connection in. And like you said, we have the meeting, whether or not that actually happens is, to be seen,
You can run it by, I mean,
So we should have a meeting. We get a project lead. We need to have a meeting when you get some sketches done. Let's come on in, offline and have a smaller meeting. And
I mean, no offense, but I personally, as the developer, I don't want to tie it into Windsor, okay? And I also know for a fact that the town board would be highly resistant to tying it into Windsor. I mean, they're politicians, right? They have to answer to the whole town, okay? And
Well, but
I don't see that happening.
So does the planning board, and just because it may be politically unpopular and the town board may not support the recommendation, the planning board should probably still do the recommendation that is the most closely aligned with the comprehensive plan and our code. And then if it's overruled at the town board level for political reasons, that's their world.
Yeah, and in fairness, Joel, we don't know, 1996 was a long time ago, right? We don't
but
know.
that goes
we don't
against
know
my
what the
marketing
answer is.
concept. I don't want to tie it into Windsor. I don't want a highway. I don't want to sell houses on a highway. You know how hard that is? Okay? That's very hard.
How about selling houses on Windsor Drive? That's a pretty attractive address.
Yeah.
It is if it's not connected to river. You connect that to river, all the property values along Windsor will drop 30, 40%.
Oh,
Not according to our comprehensive plan.
That is just
Goes
preposterous.
to
You just can't make those
interconnectivity.
kinds of business
No,
statements.
because.
It's not supported by
Because
fact.
I only lived
It's
here
not
for
supported.
30 years, okay, and I've
I-
done 6 subdivisions and I'm a realtor. Okay, but that's,
You just can't make those assertions and have a standby. It's
right.
just not fact-based.
So it's, I think Kevin
I try to
summarized.
so properties all the time on busy roads.
So why don't we
we hear
schedule, I
what
feel
you
like
say,
we're getting off
yeah,
topic a
so,
little
yeah.
bit. I think we should just
No.
maybe schedule a
Well-
meeting with the smaller meeting. And
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, no,
on board.
I'm saying, Joel, we hear what you're saying, but I mean, Nick is saying he can look at it. Like, maybe we just look and see what it looks like to connect it, and then if it still doesn't make sense.
I don't want to do it.
So, yeah.
Nick's my friend. It's expensive too, right? I mean, we'll do it. But in the end, I'm not going to connect it. All right? In the end, if you force me, I'll go away from the average density. Okay? I'll go to R1. All right? And I won't put the 15-inch sewer line in.
That may not be your choice, but we hear what you're saying.
Then I'll put 3 houses along River Road. Okay? In the end. All right? But I'm trying to work with the town. Okay?
We
This is a
understand that.
walkable concept. I put a 15-inch.
Joe, we got
line
it.
in.
Joe, we got it. All right.
All right.
But we need to have a meeting offline. There's, we need to tighten it up, okay? And you heard some comments, so we need to address the comments. We'll get a project lead. We'll have a smaller meeting. If we need to have, the superintendent of water, sewer and engineering there, we'll get the right people together. And we'll come through it. I think we can get there. But those are all good comments and we just can't dismiss them.
But I mean,
You know.
I've had a lot of meetings already to get to this. point.
Yeah, we have it, but we get it.
Yeah, this is-
Your mind's going in different places
Yeah,
already.
this is the first time the board has seen it, this is the first time.
All right.
Got the packet over the weekend and you came in tonight with something different. So this is the first time we've seen it. Got to give us a little bit of give us a chance to embrace it and to, get with you, okay? We'll get there, all right? So let's do your R1 sketch at a minimum, think about the comments you had, and let's get a meeting set up and we'll get a project lead. And I'd be glad to join in also, okay? All right, Joel?
You should be back to these very much.
We'll get there. All right. All right, we'll get there. Thank you, Bill, thanks, thanks. Okay, anybody getting tired yet?
It's me again, I'm sorry. My daughter's awake again. But, I mean, I could say it's just Ace Harbor.
It's always next.
No, I think you're good.
We're good?
Yes, thank you, thank you. All right, so we're at the Ace Hardware,
That's me.
that's you also? Okay. Are you, sir, are you here for anything?
I am. I'm so sorry. I just grabbed somebody for a soundbite about the Holocaust Memorial.
Not right now.
Yeah, I feel bad. That was earlier, everybody was here and they were first on the agenda tonight, pretty much. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so Ace Hardware, and who's our project lead? Is that you again?
Yeah, it's me and Chris.
You and Chris again, all right.
So,
Yeah.
Nick Costa again. My client is looking to purchase this property and convert it to an Ace Hardware store. And they're looking to put in a greenhouse out in the front. So I think it was submitted to Laura. I wasn't part of that. What we had done, just to give you a little bit of background, is Advanced Engineering and Surveying was asked by our client to do a survey of the site. And we thought that was it. That was the full participation of our role in that project. However, they asked us recently to generate a site plan. I think the site plan that was submitted to Laura was done by the architect.
That's correct.
Bo Michael Architects. And so they recently gave us all the information so that we can prepare the site plan. And we're in the process of preparing the site plan, and we'll have the site plan over to Laura soon. But my understanding from what I have gathered so far is that we need a couple of variances. Well, one variance, and that's for the greenhouse to come out of the existing front of the building out into that front area. It doesn't, the zoning requires it to be an average of the buildings in between the building And because we're adding that additional greenhouse, we're reducing that setback, which is less than, I think it's like 47 feet, and it's supposed to be 80.
Yeah, 46 feet to the front property line, the average front yard setback, just because some of those buildings are so far back, is 87.
Right, 87.
Is the permit, is the denial letter still accurate, or do we need to get it revised?
Nope, it's completely accurate.
It's still accurate?
Yeah, it's still accurate. And-
Just wanted to make sure. 'Cause
No, no.
We submitted our site plan, you said.
Right, but our site plan isn't really going to change
Okay.
from what the
right.
architect has generated. The other request is that they need to widen the rear access road. It's currently 15, 16 foot wide, and I think the town is looking to have it two-way, 24 foot.
Yeah, so that's the question, and we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. The access easement from Balltown Road is essentially a no-go. And so now we're looking at the access easement to Knott Street East as the main access, and I know Kevin had done a site drive, and it's overgrown, and it seems very thin, and I know I have gotten, questions from the applicant that said, if we weren't like a retail store that needed deliveries, would the planning board make us widen the road? Like if it was just an office building still, would the planning board make us widen the road? And I mean, my answer is probably yes. I mean,
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that road has to get widened and it has to be a usable road because that's where you're gonna get your main, not just deliveries, but also whoever's driving customers will come in through that way.
No, and the applicant understands that.
Right, yeah.
And the restriction on it is that they only have a certain width. And we can't, right now, I can't find 24 feet. I can do 22 feet wide, but not 24 feet wide. So that's.
What's the limitation?
The
adjacent property?
Yeah, the easement that they have, the access easement is a certain width. And we can't go from edge of easement to edge of easement. We have to be able to construct the road within that easement. And the owner of the easement has said they don't want the sidewalk removed or touched, So the sidewalk has to stay, and the sidewalk, I think, is either 4 or 5 feet. I can't remember which one it is. So what's remaining is wide enough for us to put in a 22-foot road and be able to construct it within the easement, and still have 2 feet, to the easement line, because, we can't go right to the easement line with the construction, because then construction vehicles would be over that property line. So that's the limitation on.
So we wanted 24.
Yeah, 24.
Most you could do is 22.
But only during construction, they're gonna go over the easement or?
Well, if you have to build, to do the road, you have to build a subbase. So the subbase is usually
wider.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
At least a couple inches on each side, and we don't really have that kind of room to be able to do it.
Yeah, but I think what you're heading is, the direction I think you're heading was a few inches of substrate further wide is not 2 feet. So is it possible you could get to 24?
No, because the sidewalk is 4 or 5 feet. So we don't have that room.
So 22 is the widest it could be.
That's, in my opinion, that's the widest we can do.
What's the standard road should have been 24, right?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, we have allowed
must have.
22 in the past. Our standard is 24.
Two-way 22, two-way traffic 22.
Yeah.
So-
Sometimes we have, I believe actually we did that for 1759 Union Street. We allowed them to be 22.
What's that?
Dr. The dentist building.
The dentist, Murano, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but, okay, so,
Molino.
but delivery
Molino.
trucks are gonna, retail use here, delivery trucks are gonna use that road along with customers.
Yeah, so a DOT standard lane width is 11 feet. That's what you have on a state road, is 11 feet.
That includes the shoulder, or that's without?
No, that's a lane.
Yeah,
11
that's just
feet.
okay.
So maybe we can get 22 to work. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
One question I have actually is for the board, for Laura. the easement that was denied on Balltown. What enforcement is there that's gonna stop customers from using that to come to the Ace Hardware?
None. There isn't any control except for signage, essentially. But you definitely, I think this originally came up because they were showing deliveries to that side of the building. You'd probably have, he's not going to be able to do deliveries from that side of the building. Like, I think you'll probably still see, and I'm sure this happened for Morgan Stanley as well. Morgan Stanley had a monument sign at that entrance that said entrance on Knott Street East. Did that stop people from driving up the KinderCare driveway and turning into Morgan Stanley building? Highly doubtful. But you have to put the signage. It is essentially a trespass when people do that. But it's not enforced by the police. It's just a signage issue.
Yes, I don't know. Alexis is in there, but we're we'll be dealing with creating a situation where we know that the public is going to be non-compliant.
Regardless of what
Regardless of what
building
we
goes
do.
in there, a user goes in that,
Yeah.
that building.
And I'm not saying that that's okay, but that section and our section of code specifically says in that area that you want the parking lots joined. That's what we tried to do, actually on Union Street, and that's what we tried to do specifically when those buildings were originally laid out, that those parking lots interconnect. Whether or not there's official easements for all of those parking lots interconnecting, like you could drive to CBS on this easement, and I don't think that CBS has a right to this easement, right? So this easement is from Knott Street East to the Morgan Stanley building, but anybody who works at CBS can drive through all those parking lots so they don't have to wait on that. It happens. And in our comprehensive code, we specifically join parking lots to try and get some traffic off the road and allow for the interconnectedness. So I think it's okay.
Okay, yeah,
So just to refresh my knowledge, so the road off of Knott Street East is not it's not a dedicated town road, right?
Nope, none of them are dedicated to town, but we like that interconnectedness back there just for traffic.
And so when we talk about the easement off of Balltown Road, it's in favor of KinderCare?
It's actually halfway across the driveway, KinderCare and the law office building.
And who owns the fee?
You know what? I think
Is that
Half and
law?
half.
lot line might go right.
Is that what you're
there.
saying, Laura? Is half of it is lands owned by the law firm, and the other half of
Yeah,
that is?
do you have
owned
that?
by
I think that's what it looked like on the map.
I definitely remember them saying the easement is a joint easement from KinderCare and from the law office.
Right.
And both of those refused to grant an easement to Ace.
My understanding is that KinderCare was okay with the easement, but I was not in the negotiation, so.
Do we have concerns about delivery vehicles being able to turn around using only the Knott Street access?
Yeah, I guess when Nick's doing the site plan, you can show that.
Yeah, we've looked at that and.
He said they're not 18-wheelers. He says they're
No,
box
they're
trucks.
box truck, 38 foot. And actually, we did the tractor trailer. And the tractor trailer coming off of Knott Street actually maneuvers much better. So the box truck is going to obviously have an easier time to do that. And where their delivery is towards Knott, from, the way the building is laid out, the delivery entrance is going to be towards Knott, towards a portion of the building that's closer to Knott Street.
For me, the bottom line is that road's got to be expanded, right?
Yes.
If you drive over there now with the snow and if somebody tries to come out of there, somebody's got to back up or, there's just not even enough room with the snow.
That's correct.
So that's got to happen. So is that something where we could have, get an opinion from I guess it'd be the highway superintendent about the 24-foot, and whether they had any concerns? Where do we get some input on that?
We can certainly just ask him for reference, but his purview is essentially town-owned roads, and the planning board does and has waived the sort of 2-lane drive in parking lots down to 22 feet when necessary. And I think in some cases we've done that to increase green space because you can still.
So we've had, and I'd have to lay it all out, but 22 feet, each lane, how big would each lane?
11 feet. And when it gets closer to Knott Street, because of the radius, it is wider.
So,
you know,
so there would be basically a fog line on each side of the 22 feet. There wouldn't be any room for any pedestrians then. We'd be right against the,
no.
But there would be a sidewalk.
There's a sidewalk.
There's a sidewalk for a portion of the site.
yeah, portion of
there
it. Once it ends there, right past the
Yes,
the
that's
building.
right.
And because if you drive through, take a ride through there and check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, once it gets past there, it opens up too, so you can walk through the parking lot or whatever
Right.
also.
Right.
I just want to make sure that 22 feet is sufficient for two trucks to pass each other,
Well,
you know.
for pedestrian traffic getting to the store, they're gonna come off of Balltown and go into, there's an entrance by the greenhouse, right? Like,
Yes, I mean, that's definitely why the planning board
Yeah.
wanted to see, and, you know, initially they didn't have a door to the store at the
Right.
greenhouse, and
That's
we
right.
pushed them really hard, and they said, okay, yeah, we'll build a sidewalk and put an actual pedestrian door.
So,
facing
so the road in the, off of Knott Street is not going to be intended for, I mean, people can do what they want to do, but it's not gonna be intended for pedestrians.
I mean,
Access
Well, I
to the
said
store.
pedestrian, I meant
Yeah.
two cars. People are going to be going in there and a truck's going to be coming out, or it could be a truck going both ways.
Okay, you meant cars.
Are they going to be okay? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
that's the bottom line.
I think, I think that they're going to be, at the speed that they're going to be traveling, you
Yeah.
know, down this
Because people-
driveway.
As Laura said, anybody that, non-pedestrian that comes in, they might come in off Balltown Road for, you know, if it's just signage, there's, may not be able to stop them, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
so that's, I don't know how much traffic would be on this 22-foot road. Maybe it would only be deliveries, you know, there might not be a large usage of it anyway.
That's correct.
I would just wonder if we could just take a pause for a moment here. Are we trying to twist ourselves in a pretzel to solve for a lack, like taking another stab at negotiations? I mean, why not interject yourself in a discussion, Laura, or at a higher level? I mean, you and others and Alexis to go talk to the law firm. It feels like the best solution is to get the easement. And I wonder why we can't, this is suitability, it's got value. I mean,
So here,
You can make
I'm
a
just
play
asking this
here.
question to you, if they have the easement on Balltown Road, we wouldn't require any updates to the Knott Street East?
No, I think, so I think we probably want to do both. I mean, I know we might be sounding like we're being a little
Well-
ambitious, but
Yeah, at a minimum, if we had the easement, in my view, because I've driven over it a few times, if we had the easement on Balltown, great, for, especially for deliveries, right? They could,
yeah.
right? But still, if you drive out that road between the potholes and all the overgrown vegetation, at a minimum, the road needs to be repaired and things cut back so that if
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
chooses
So-
to go that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would view the easement to Balltown as being additional. And like I said, my issue with it is just that people are gonna do that anyway. So the logic of it just doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense to me.
Well, it's the trucks. I think it's if a truck came
Right.
through there and parked there, they might, I don't know what action they would take, sue, or I don't know what you'd do, right? If, maybe you would know.
But again, the new delivery exit, so
Yeah, it's.
the new delivery entrance is closer to Knott Street, right? So
Yes, that's
you're pretty much making it for coming off.
That's right. Yeah, Ace is intending to
Yeah.
tell their drivers to use the Knott Street entrance, exit, you know, exit.
So I mean, I view the easement on Balltown Road at this point as just an additional thing that makes consumer traffic a little more compliant with the, you know, with what's the intent of the owners
Yeah,
there.
what
the
reality-
owners of the
what's
easement,
gonna
et cetera.
happen.
and improving the viability of a downtown,
Right.
of a business that's very attractive and important, the overlay district. I mean, on multiple levels, we want it to succeed.
Yeah.
Retail's hard enough, right?
Yeah.
Both the parking lot gets connected in the
Yeah,
back.
I
there.
mean, I absolutely can see if, you know, the town can reach out and try and have a higher level conversation.
Yeah.
But I mean, this project, it wasn't languishing when it wasn't before the town board. I mean, these guys have been working on it for the 6 months that you haven't seen it. And I am a little worried that the conversations have crossed bridges that can't, but I will reach out.
Sure.
But I think that one of the things that he really needed clarification on from the planning board was, I mean, I've tried for 6 months. Are you guys going to absolutely require this easement from Balltown Road? Because it's going to kill the project.
Yeah, I think we already pushed that. You already vetted that.
Yeah.
At the hard answer.
Yeah,
'Cause we
and
were
so I
waiting-
did get that hard answer, and I said,
That's what I was.
now you got to work on the Knott Street East entrance. So I just want to be a little careful about going back
So-
and saying,
so-
you got to have the Balltown Road easement.
Yeah. So I'll be clear. Everything that we're talking about currently with the site plan that's in front of us seems reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right.
Given that there is an access that will probably get used, 22 feet or something less than our standard 24, I'm open to those things because it will offload traffic that's going to be on Balltown Road because it's a little bit, it's improved, so I think that.
So I'll be clear, not getting the easement on Balltown Road is no longer a requirement as far as I'm concerned for the current plan we have in front of us.
Okay.
However, I think Michael's point, it's just, it's just odd.
It'd be nice, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be.
Maybe gravy, yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
great.
gravy.
It'd be gravy.
Yeah, gravy, I was gonna say icing, whatever it is.
Well, and
Delicious.
I
It
think
would
the
be
applicant
great.
would
So
still
I
agree.
think in terms of the plan in front of us, I mean, I remember going through it, right? If nothing substantially changed.
No, and actually, I think Nick's here. But theoretically, you might need to make a recommendation to the planning board on the greenhouse, or sorry,
Greenhouse,
zoning board
yeah.
on the greenhouse at the
Zoning
next
board,
meeting.
right.
Yeah.
I think we're in general, I mean, again, I think it's something we wanted, right? So I think,
I mean, I feel like it makes a lot of sense to
yeah,
have.
I mean, that's my view,
And spruce up
But you
the
can't
front
get
of
that
the
too,
building.
there's just no way, huh? What would it take, updating easements or buying property? I mean, it's probably not easy, huh?
I think that they've had conversations with both neighbors,
Yeah.
and I don't think that they, made any
Who
progress.
owns
Yeah, no,
the
there's a
Knott Street?
constraint between the curb of the sidewalk and First National. So you
Right.
actually cannot physically fit
Fit.
between the curb of the sidewalk and the property line. And then you would need an easement from First National of Scotia. And he did talk to them. They really try. It's not, I mean, they call me all the time. It's just very
And
difficult.
also the applicant, I think it was your point, is, okay, you're going to have access, to the legal access, or the
Right.
correct access is off of Knott Street.
Right.
They feel that their business would be successful if
Yes.
something were to happen and they couldn't use, Balltown.
Balltown, right.
They feel that they're okay with that.
Yeah, no, they are. They understand that.
No, I think the business could be successful with access off of that. A nice, 22-foot roadway.
Right.
Right, but I mean, I think,
So we're looking for tonight, we're looking for direction.
Yeah, just direction to the applicant. Make sure that generally speaking, we can have the recommendation of the zoning board at the next meeting if possible. And then he needed direction on what to do for the Knott Street East Road.
Leslie.
Do any of the neighbors have an easement to access Knott Street through this property?
I'll have to check that. I'm not sure it's an exclusive easement for the, what's going to be the Ace Hardware parcel. I'm not sure if that reads that it's only for them. Or if the neighbor has also given rights to, because there is another, what's the one that has the parking lot that's shared with Ace?
Yeah, it's the
Can't
back of the Niskuna
Yeah.
Professional Office Building.
That's it.
Yeah, and they do, I mean, they're the underlying landowner, actually.
Yeah, they're-
General offices.
But then it does still connect into kindergarten, and then it does still connect into law offices and
Oh,
CVS. They're all interconnected.
Do they have shared parking in the on the east side of the lot?
They own,
They own the parking spaces, but I'm not sure if they're, no, that's their parking.
Yeah, it's not shared.
That's their parking lot.
Yeah.
But they.
Ace.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The subject.
But this driveway that connects Knott Street to KinderCare, CBS 6, the law firm.
Right.
That is, there's must be an easement there.
There is an easement.
Yeah, that's the one that he can't get an extra 2 feet on.
Right.
Yeah, there's an easement there, but we want to have it bigger.
Right.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Ace has an easement from their property to Knott Street, but then over Ace's property, there's an easement granted to the neighbors, no?
I believe there is, because that's how that's how they get access through, the Ace parcel to the adjacent parcel.
They have to cross through the
Right.
Ace parcel.
Right.
Okay.
yeah, because so like these two driveways connect you to the back of the Niskuna Professional Office Building, and then this driveway connects you over to the CVS.
They don't share the parking, but they have access, because there's a drive that's left, between the parking spaces. If you look at the plan, there's actually
Three.
a drive that's
Yeah.
available.
That's a shame. It would seem that the applicant here is proposing some improvements that everyone could benefit
Yeah.
from.
Benefit
And
from,
Yeah.
yes.
and the neighbors don't really want to work with the applicant, and that's a shame. It'd be.
Because you know
I think
darn
that's
well
the case
they're
for-
utilizing
They're
that.
gonna use it.
They're using it probably now, right? So.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pull Ball Town about that way. They're already probably using it.
For the record, they're definitely using it
Yeah.
because somebody piled snow on one of these thingies and the town got calls immediately.
So somebody plowed it.
No, like
Gotta be-
KinderCare or whoever piled snow right in this thing, and we got calls immediately and said, "Who is doing that?" Because now my employees can't get to safely to Knott Street East because it's not safe all the time for the law office and KinderCare and CBS to go out and take rights and left onto Balltown Road at some times of day that doesn't work very well. They definitely use this exit.
Right.
And Laura's really highlighting my point. I think it's safer without the connection to Balltown, based on the accidents I've seen, and, oh yeah, I might have been in one or two of them as well. Any time other than rush hour when it's like gridlock, you're safer going up Knott Street to get in there. There's just been way too many accidents. You call the police when an accident has happened, they look at it, and they'll tell you what happened. It's a common experience.
I can see.
Well, it's what you were talking about before, is that this helps take some of the load off of Bull Town Road. You know, if everybody was going out to Bull Town Road, it gets to be a nightmare, a traffic nightmare. By being able to have some other routes, at least you're moving the traffic.
Yep. No, I mean, this is, yeah, like I said, I can settle for a 22-foot road, but it's okay.
They can make
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay.
And just ultimately, I want to make sure we solve to the maximum extent possible, not only for your use, but hopefully for successor uses, right?
Yes.
There's going to be turnovers, retail. I just want to make sure that we can get the best deal we can carve out of this now for future use and viability of this parcel because of its location.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but let's.
No, but I think a key part of that is good, safe, wide enough access from Knott Street, I think, is a key piece of that.
Yeah, two-way, being able to do two-way.
Hey,
traffic.
maybe if you do the improvements on Knott Street to 22 foot, maybe where you're having the hard spot for the other easement, they're going to recognize that they're utilizing it too, and maybe things would change too.
Once they see that there's movement, that it's actually going to happen.
Yeah,
They may
yeah,
come-
so maybe things will change. But in the meantime, we're okay with the 22 foot, it sounds like. Is that okay with everybody? Again, I'm not looking.
Yep.
Everybody's all right with that? And then we are going to make a recommendation to the ZBA at our next meeting so we can prepare the comp plan suitability.
Did we take care of all the sign things? I can't remember. Is there?
The sign things for this property?
We don't
Yeah.
have.
Oh, nope. We still need to work with them on that.
So are they gonna need variances for that?
Yeah, and they
They
also
have a
want a
lot of them.
monument sign, which is potentially a waiver.
So we're gonna do these one at a time with this. ZBA?
I have mentioned to them that if they needed a waiver for their monument or signage, that, it's good to not take them multiple times at the zoning board. But I think that this issue is, potentially a closing issue, and the signage is sort of like a farther
Yeah,
down,
okay.
so he separated them.
And we've done signage later on, even after we get down the road. So we can work through
Be
that.
nice to know how big it's going to be, how big their
Oh, we already
initial
had-
request is going to be, because it's
On the
pretty close
signage?
to another sign.
Yeah, we have them.
Yeah, we already had a submittal.
We have a submittal.
Yeah.
On the monument, do they have the size?
No, we've never
monument?
seen the monument.
We saw the sign around the
So
door.
the
I
facade
see.
signs?
Yeah.
Yeah, the facade signs,
Yeah.
because there was like
That's a
5
good
of
point.
them, and they were
Yeah,
the
Be nice to
different-
know what the
yeah.
original request was going to be.
Well, Dave will be taking care of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You're gonna set a new precedent there.
Be the size of KinderCare.
All
I was
right.
gonna say, Dave, you could tell all the Knott Street Landing East people that there's now a hardware store. So when you move into your new constructed apartments,
I mean, there was a lot of positivity for that hardware store.
yeah.
Like we mentioned it a couple times, and people, there's a lot of positivity.
Yeah, I
for
think
that.
so too.
I fully agree.
Especially when you just
you
need something, you're doing a job, you need something, you don't got to go down to
Quick.
Schenectady to Home Depot
I'm sure
or.
Mr. Yetter was gonna go buy his fittings and all that stuff.
I'm gonna buy
Lunch
plants
hour,
there at every lunch.
walk around.
Yeah. And they also have other things, it isn't just hardware, right? Usually
No,
they have other types of gifts and things like that in those stores, so.
yeah,
In fact, I think that was one of the comments I heard is that hopefully they will have like a gift section like some of those hardware stores have, Actually, one of the comments I did hear from
No,
the
just
public.
don't,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have, I think they have I know that they have 3 or 4 other Ace stores in the capital.
Yeah, Troy, Brunswick.
Yeah, Troy, Brunswick, North Greenbush.
That's good.
Really nice.
No, I think it's a very good use of the property. It's sitting there vacant. I think it'll be great.
Absolutely.
Just got to get through it. All right, so it sounds good. We'll have,
Thank you.
we'll do our thing for the recommendation to ZBA at the next meeting, and we're okay with the 22-foot, so you can keep going forward.
Okay.
If anything happens, so we can squeeze more out of it, obviously, more
Well,
the better.
we'll get you an updated site
Yeah, okay.
to Laura, and she can share it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're down to reports. I don't know how much you want to do tonight, Laura, because we're getting down there, but maybe 2340 Knott Street?
Well, I'll go real quick. I apologize. I was trying to get the monument sign code out quickly when I was looking at that, and my memory was that 16 square feet are allowed, but I was able to pull it up after, and there is no issue with the Holocaust Memorial Monument sign.
Good.
Residential monument signs are allowed to be 20 square feet, and that's under, which is probably why they were looking so confused. So, non-issue. 2340 Knott Street East, you guys probably noticed, started their clearing.
Tree, yeah.
Yeah.
Trees taken down, yeah.
Anyone?
So they've got a couple things they need to do. I sent Dave the railing detail. They actually still need to have their pre-construction meeting. So that site is probably going to look like that for at least a couple weeks. Unfortunately, those trees were taken down without a building permit, so they haven't fully gone through all the process. We know those trees are going to come down. Those are the trees that we issued, but it's going to be a little while before he can actually get all of his permits and ducks in a row to get going again. So I would expect that site to look like that for a little while. If you
Have
get questions,
you got, well, I was going to ask you if you've received questions, because that's always sort of the thing that gets people.
of course,
agita
when
to
those
sort
trees
of
go
be-
down,
yeah.
everybody wants to know what happened. Yes.
Well, also
absolutely.
if they're lingering there for a long time,
And they
it just
may.
kind of looks a little bit like blighted.
So,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, just by the way that timing went and they probably will stay there for a little while. So I just wanted to let you guys know, we got to get the steps in place. We got to get everything approved. Then he can go back out there and clean the trees off. So it will probably be a little while. I talked
Does
to
he
him
have a
about it.
final permit set in yet for the building?
Nope.
And so you said they did some work without getting one of their permits?
Yeah. So, I mean, that is the clearing that is proposed in the site plan, but it was done without a permit. So it was a stop work order. And he's got to now come back and catch the cart up to the horse and get his pre-construction meeting and get the final building plans in and get everything.
We do fine them in that case, right?
I will. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was because
I mean, are fines steep enough?
Well, that fine is $500 a tree. So if anybody wants to go out there and count trees.
All right. Well, no, I mean, because the problem is once a tree comes, it's like you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
No, I know,
and
absolutely
it's-
not.
Yeah.
What were they thinking?
The only reason I'm asking is because you tell me, Laura, but this seems to be a frequent complaint from about different developers.
Clearing without a permit.
And so maybe if we made it $5,000 a tree, right?
I agree.
They would think twice about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the third major time that has happened since I've been here. So, I mean, that is pretty frequent
That
considering.
could have been like $50,000 or $75,000.
But we have levied a fine the first time. The second time, there was monetary. I mean, yeah. And then
I'm being serious about it. I know I sounded like I was not.
No, it's
but
not okay. I mean, it's just not. And unfortunately, what happens is if they do that without a building permit or they go too far, then the site stays like that for a little while until they catch up. And, there's a lot of animosity when they get fined. And
hey, Lori,
Not
it would do a lot more for.
Actually, it's a
So in
good
other words,
segue into
lose,
the next
lose.
part of your report.
This-
Zoning code amendments.
yeah, they,
I
so.
was going to say, Lori, it would do a lot more for the environment than electrical charging stations to prevent people from cutting trees down they shouldn't be.
I mean, you guys know how much I love trees. Anything I can do to protect them is good. Yeah, so the zoning code amendments, we brought those to the town board committee for discussion. They did have some feedback for us to shape bringing them back. They were really, I think, supportive of the majority of the stuff that we wanted to do. They had some questions on the Airbnb rentals and they wanted to expand it to be single-family home rentals, like long-term. That I'm a little hesitant to do because it's a lot of extra work for our department. I can understand a little where they're coming from. So that's something that we're going to look at. And then the chickens, it's very similar to what you guys do. It splits the board right in half in the room. Kevin was in the room.
Yep.
I think that they don't want us to move forward with it without doing some kind of a straw poll on the town, just because it's, so if we have time to pull that in, we will. I would say generally speaking, unless something changes, it's just such a dividing issue that they wanted to set that one aside for a little bit.
Put it on the ballot in November.
Well, I mean, when we sent out the farmer's market poll, I think we got like 600 or something, which may not sound like a lot, but that's a lot more input than you normally get for local government. If we sent out a similar thing on chickens, I don't know what would happen, but I think we're going to take that input, then bring back another set of revised code amendments for you for the next planning board meeting.
Great. Thanks, Laura. Anything else, Laura?
Nope.
All right, let's move on with commission business. Mr. Ross, do you have anything?
I do not.
Mr. Diapino?
No.
Mr. McPartland? No. Mr. Khan?
No.
Mr. Tennis?
I do, but I dare not bring it up. No.
Oh, boy. I think I know what it is.
No time.
Yeah, okay. And Mr. Laflamme?
Yeah, I'd like to know what Mike's.
All right.
No, nothing to add.
Yeah, the only thing I got is, with the River Road project, I know you mentioned that, maybe I should be the private project lead. I try to stay away from being the project lead. It's because historically I've been on the board a long time, and usually the chairman isn't the lead because, it would only be me, and I would kind of sway things I want. So it's always good to have a project lead. And I'll go to the meeting and give my opinion and help out, because I review every project, right? So it's good because Mr. Diarpino and Mr. About the Windsor, had a little bit different view, and that's good, So that's why I think, think about it. We're going to need a project lead for Mr. Bezoin, or however you say it, Mr. Bezoin. Bissalon. Yeah, and we're going to need a project lead when he gets ready to come on in and sit down, okay? Because you see, it's interesting. But in general, I think we can get there, but he's got to do his evaluations and make sure we're happy, right? So that's all I had. Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn, Mr. Khan, seconded by Mr. Diarpino. Thank you, everybody. Oh, all those favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, thank you, everybody. It was a long night. I appreciate it.
They were signified by walking out the door.
Wow, this was a long night.
Oh, okay, so you're gonna say, okay. I think whatever makes sense there, it's just a matter of looking at it from the numbers.
That was too messy.